I can come up with. All right, welcome to PDA, Positively Disagreeable. I realized I was thinking about that the other day when I was thinking about how we came up with the name of the show, and I was like, you know what? I don't think I've actually said that in a really long time. I always say PDA because it's shorter. Anyways, welcome to Positively Disagreeable.
You said it 3 times. Way to go.
Just in case you forgot, you will never forget again. We're down a co-host today. Had apparently very last minute emergency moving situation that was so crazy he didn't even get to text us to let us know. So it's gonna be me and Victor today. We got some messages out to Jack, who was joined us last week. We had a lot of fun with him, and was see if we can get him on at any point if he responds. So possibly Jack will be back. Jumpin' Jack Flash. You don't remember that? I know I'm dating myself here, but that's
one of Whoopi Goldberg's best movies.
Back when Whoopi Goldberg was putting out movies like toilet paper.
Like Jumping Jack Flash.
It was a good one. I like that one. What was there? Was that one? Remember the one where she was like
I like the one with Ted Danson, and she was like supposed to be like it was that one, right? Where they were supposed to be like something like they had a kid together or something.
Yeah, they were married and then divorced, and then they had a kid. And he was like
Jumping Jack Flash.
No,
that was another one.
There's two of them that like. Admittedly, I was like 5 or something when they came out, so that could be part of the problem. But I gotta say, the ideas of the movies were close enough to each other that if you remind me of a scene from one of them, I could not tell you which one of the movies it was in, because they were both like, like she's in the shit, and then there's people after her, and she's like trying to get to the truth. I don't know. It was, but they were good. Remember, there was one where she was like on her computer talking to somebody.
Yeah.
That she like somehow like intercepted a conversation with, and he was like a spy or some shit. That one might be
Jack Flash movie. I remember that one.
Well, it might be, because then there's another one that's like, what was the one? All I remember is like, here's Johnny. That was something, because the bad guy's name was, I don't know. It's been a long time since I've seen these movies, but I think that's a different one.
You're totally wrong.
No, look, I'm gonna look it up right now. I like Whoopi Goldberg. She's funny.
I think she's hilarious.
She's got
But you think she was a lot funnier when she was young than now?
Well, I think, there seems to be this phenomenon that I've noticed more and more, where like people, as they get older, seem to go, like, not always, but seem to become less and less like open-minded and like accepting of anything other than what they like and think is right.
I'm sorry, are you explaining old age now?
I don't know what it is. Like, I mean, we think about it, okay? The older people now are part of the people that were young during like the 60s, right? We're talking about like hippies and like, like open love and like free your mind and everything's okay and just let people live. And now it's like, unless you want me to wear a mask and then go fuck yourself, you know what I mean? Like, it's I was really open-minded until I realized people didn't do what I wanted, and now I just want people to do what I want them to do. You know what I mean? It's crazy.
Well, I think so like when you're a child, I think you like really care what other people think, and it slowly phases out of your system until when you're like past 50, past 60, where you could give 2 craps what anyone other than yourself thinks.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's definitely some truth to that. I mean, some of it is definitely just like self-confidence in what you believe in, but like, I'm extremely confident in what I believe in, like I, as much as anybody, I would think, that's not like self-absorbed or narcissistic. You know what I mean? Like I think
not narcissistic.
Right. I think what I think, and I respect that might not be correct, and that other people might think different shit. You know what I mean? But but none of the fact that I think I could be wrong, or that other people are allowed to think other shit changes how strongly I believe what I believe. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it's not, I don't think that because I'm not like, because I might be too stupid to understand something. Like, I feel confident I understand it. I feel confident my thinking on it is the right thinking, but can still recognize that it might not be. Like, no matter how confident I am, and it doesn't mean that it is. Like, I could still be wrong, and other people still have the right to think so. Like, I don't.
Well,
I
that's what I
don't.
mean. I mean, I think when you get older, you start losing that part of your ideals. The whole giving a shit about other people.
Yeah, I don't understand that part of it. I guess I don't know. I don't understand what part of getting older like naturally changes you into somebody who is like less. Because I mean, I think there's quite the opposite type of old people who, like, as they get older and experience more, recognize even more that it's not simple, and that people are just trying to do the best they can, and become way more empathetic and way more like open-minded because of the experiences that they've been through, and all the changes that they've seen happen, right? Where's the I feel like for most of my life, as I've gotten older and experienced more and learned more, I've become less rigid because of that, right? Like, I recognize the gray in things, and how very little, I mean, more recently in my life, I mean, not like the last couple of years, but like, it took a past my 30s maybe before I really understood the idea that, like, all the shit I watched where there was good guys and bad guys, the good guys were just the people who the person writing the show wanted me to think was the good guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah.
if they had spent all the time telling me about the deep parts of the bad people, I'd have liked those motherfuckers instead. You
Yep.
know what I mean? Like it's all about what part of you're getting more often than not. There's always way more to it than we know or understand, and I've that's what I'm saying. I've become less
Yeah,
rigid. I
in
used
real
to
life,
be.
no one believes they're the villain of their own story. You know, no one's like, I'm gonna be an a-hole. You
Yeah.
know?
Well, I wouldn't say no one, but most people, I agree. Some people are fully aware of how big of an asshole they are, or how
Oh yeah,
shit
no,
they're
no, but they believe they
doing
have reason.
it.
They believe they have reason and just for doing it.
Yeah, most people. There are plenty. I think there's still a decent amount of people, or there is a number of people that realize 100% the decision that they're making is a greedy one, and are just doing it anyways. You know what I mean? They don't think they're the good guy. They're just okay with being the bad guy. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah, I guess
but
so.
I don't think you're wrong in the sense that a lot of people, maybe even the majority of people that other people think are bad guys, don't think that they are. I mean, that's certainly accurate. I just don't know anybody. Um, every bad person, I should say. But yes, I mean, that's the point. Is I've got, when I was younger, I built a very strict idea of what I thought was right and wrong and bad and stupid, and the things that made me not like people and the things that made me like people. And as I've gotten older and experienced more and seen more and become more aware of the fact that there's two sides to every story. And I mean, that's a simple thing to say. It's not like when I was young, I didn't think there was two sides to every story. I just knew one was right and one was wrong. You know what I mean? Whereas now that I understand it more, I realize it's often, more often than not that simple. Sometimes it is. I don't think it's not ever simple. Sometimes it is. I mean, there's some things that are just wrong, and people know it and they do it anyways. But normally it's complicated. And that's something that comes with getting older and having more experience. So what is it that I'm missing that as you get older, you realize, no, it turns out I'm just right about everything and everybody else is wrong. You know what I mean? and there's plenty of old people that aren't like that. You know what I mean? Like, when we think about the wise elder people, we're not thinking of the people that are like and burn those hippie bastards. You know what I mean? Those aren't the people you're talking about when you say that. You know what I mean? You're talking about the people that you go to who say, yeah, but have you thought about it from their point of view? That's the wise one, right? And it seems like there's less of those these days than there used to be, which is weird to me because the generation that's becoming the old wise people seemed wise, at least wiser, and they're like 20s, you know? Like, what happened? 60 years of time made you less knowledgeable?
Maybe it beat them down. Maybe it beat that stuff
Yeah,
out of them.
yeah. I think there's definitely something to that. I mean, getting old just sucks,
Yep.
period. I mean, there's nothing good about. I mean, learning more is great, right? But that's about the only good thing that comes from old age. Every other part of it sucks, and it gets, you have less energy and more pain, and everything you do becomes harder to do. So, I mean, I wouldn't be completely uh, um, disagreeable to the idea that it's just like a lack of energy. You know what I mean? Like it's like I ain't got time for anything other than what I fucking want. You know what I mean? And everybody
Yeah,
else.
no, that's for real.
Oh wait, do we have comments?
Oh yeah, that's a good idea.
All right. Oh, Jack's been communicating with us, just not on my okay. I thought about it, but I think because you have your daughter, my second cousin, who cannot get the vaccine.
Really?
Well, from your perspective, I feel the same about restaurants and marking food with peanuts, but I don't expect them to stop serving food. I don't know. I own some responsibility, and we have to have his EpiPen with us.
You know, if you're gonna talk while you read, you might as well
Yeah,
actually
sorry.
make it.
I, it was hard. The Maybe I was reading it wrong, but I thought about it. Okay, this is from Jack, who was hosting with us last week. Thought about it, but I think because you have your daughter, my second cousin. That's what I was trying to figure out what he meant by it. Who cannot get the vaccine? So I think he's saying he was considering it from my perspective about my daughter who can't get the vaccine for COVID, a lot like his cousin who's allergic to peanuts, I think is what he's saying there. It's just bad sentence structure. I feel the same about restaurants and marking food with peanuts, but I don't expect them to stop serving food. I do know I own some responsibility, and we have to have his EpiPen. So I hear what you're saying. My niece is allergic to peanuts. It's not as severe as it is for some people, but I mean, if she eats a peanut and we don't react quickly enough, it'll kill her. And she's my brother's older than I am, and so she's just graduated high school. Um, and so, I mean, this is something we've been dealing with for a long time. And most foods, if it's not like, I think like I don't know what the rule is, but like major food manufacturers have to put that information on the labels. I think like any packaged food is required to label not just if it has peanuts in it, but like if it's made in a factory where peanuts are also used for making shit. Like there's all these different things that they're required to put on there. Um, I don't know. To me, it's a little bit different because like while I understand what you're saying, like I mean, depending on how well you want, like we can bring food with us for her, you know what I mean? Like we rely on having her EpiPen and reading the labels and stuff, but I mean, like there is a protection that we can provide against that risk that you can't do with this. I mean, you just can't. Like if I send my daughter to school with, how many fucking kids are in an elementary school, you know what I mean? Like in the year and a half that they haven't been going to school, I haven't been sick one time. when they were in school. I got sick like 4 or 5 times a year because schools, especially elementary schools, are like petri dishes. I mean, these are little kids. They cough and they wipe their nose and they don't wash their hands, and like they just spread shit everywhere. I mean, there's literally, if there was something that I could do to guarantee that she would not, there's no 100% guarantee, but give her, reduce the risk to a reasonable amount of risk while she was at school, I would. That's fine. I don't have any. We do have, my daughter's diabetic. I mean, there's tons of responsibility that we as her parents have to take on because of that. Like, I don't expect the restaurant to know how much insulin she needs or to have the insulin there with her. I don't expect them to have the glucon shot in case we give her too much insulin and she starts going into a diabetic coma. Like there's all these things that are my responsibility because my daughter is diabetic, and I fully take credit for that responsibility. But what we're talking about are things that we can't control, right? Like, because people are choosing not to get vaccinated, like that level of risk is there no matter what I do. I mean, the best I could do is tell her to wear a mask and wash her hands. And while that would reduce risk, it's certain, like it's much higher risk than I'm willing to take. And I honestly think, like, in today's day and age, I think I look at risk like much different than most parents do. Like, I'm always trying to like think back to when I was a kid and the shit that we used to do and the fun we used to have and the crap I used to get into that I had to get myself out of, and how all that turned me into the person that I am today. And how, as parents nowadays, we're so worried about anything happening to our kids that we just like do everything for them and remove all the risk for them. And I'm a parent. I want to do that for them too, because I love my kids and I don't want to see them get hurt. But I wonder how significant of a risk we're protecting them from, and how much are we taking from them by doing it? You know what I mean? And so I think about all those things, but this is like, it's just too high of a risk. I mean, and
And
to know,
the
right,
consequence. I mean, like,
right,
there's a difference between like, oh, my son's a boy and he does boy things. He plays with rocks and sticks and cuts his knees and hits his
right,
head and
right.
comes home with scrapes and cuts and all sorts of stuff. But with this, the result has a good chance of being death or hospitalization or
And
having
when
your
things are
lungs
bad,
need
which they're getting,
transplant.
yeah. And when things are bad like they are now, like even if she has a mild response as a diabetic person and just ends up in the hospital, I mean, in a lot of places, like she'd have to be there by herself. We wouldn't be allowed to be there because of the hospital rules because of COVID. So my
Yes.
10-year-old daughter would be in a hospital by herself every day, scared to death and sick, and nobody there to look after her and take care of her. I mean, those are like really serious consequences that are high, a high risk, and I can't do anything to control that. So I just, I know the consequences of a peanut allergy are severe, but it seems like there are ways to significantly mitigate that risk, um, that you have control of as a parent, that you don't have control of over this. That's the difference to me. He's got some other comments though. That's in the Matt Damien movie, the talent Mr. Ripley, the bad guy
Never
does.
watched that movie.
He's the bad guy. Okay, so Jack's obviously listening to the show because that was something we talked about today. Yeah, it's also, I think, kind of the theme to the new Karate Kid series, that they constantly bounce back and forth with who the good people are and who the bad people are, and you're
Right.
like always kind of like not sure who you're supposed to be rooting for, because you're like, oh well, that kind of makes it, they do a pretty good job of that. So I think it's something I've noticed a lot more writers kind of focusing on in shit now. Obviously, it's kind of the idea of any anti-hero show. where you fall in love with Tony Soprano even though he's the head of organized crime, or like the Punisher, right, is doing a lot of shit he probably shouldn't be doing, but you like him anyways. um yeah. Yes, Dr. Vader or
I think that's supposed
Anakin.
to be Darth Vader.
Darth Vader, yeah,
Yeah, Darth.
thought the Empire was a noble solution to the exactly, another good example where we're hell bent on the idea that the people that are like fighting against the institution that's in place are the noble ones, right? Because that's the point of view of the person writing the story, and so we wholeheartedly get behind it and assume that the Empire is evil.
Well, Thanos, hell,
Yeah,
I guess a good goal or whatever. He was trying to make sure that
right,
planets
right,
didn't get used up and everyone had everything they could to eat,
right.
and were productive and prosperous.
Yeah, I mean, I think there are a lot of people today who would agree with his solution. To be honest with you, I
Well,
don't, but and
well,
the other.
honestly, I mean, okay, so this is gonna sound terrible, but the disease that's going on right now, COVID, is gonna make us better in 5 years.
Maybe. I mean, so far, yeah. I mean, I understand your point. I don't know. It's many people who have died from the disease, and it's a lot. I don't know that it's enough to curve the overpopulation situation that we have.
Well, yeah, that's true. That's true. But I mean, look at what the job compare the jobless percentage in the United States versus the percentage of people that have passed away or been hospitalized because of COVID, and they're pretty damn close.
Yeah, but that's like, I mean, underemployment. I don't know. Unemployment, I've never considered an issue of overpopulation because, I mean, with more people, you need more people to do shit. I
No,
mean,
you're
business kind
absolutely
of
right.
grows
And
hand in hand.
I'm not saying it's a solution to overpopulation. It'll probably only like put us back a year or two in population. How can I say that?
Population,
Population.
if
Population.
that, I mean, the numbers
But
are
even
fucking
that,
up.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying that people now have the chance to get better jobs because people that have filled them before are no longer around,
Sure.
are no longer able to do their jobs. I mean, you can see it already in the well, not necessarily because of the deaths, but the like low paying wages jobs, like the Burger Kings and the McDonald's. Sorry, guys, to all the people I'm mentioning, but all those low paying like fast food jobs, the people are starting to ask for more money. They're asking for more benefits and they're asking for better um, places to work.
Yeah. Yeah. No, there's certainly been a turn towards employees having more power than employers, which certainly wasn't the case before it happened. Again, I don't know that that's an overpopulation thing, but it is something, a benefit of it. Their employers are desperate to find employees. There's been all, different companies offering bonuses and higher wages and better benefits and all kinds of shit to get people to come and work for them because they don't have enough employees, which is great. The other thing I would say about Xanos is that on he also, like, in his idea of eliminating enough people for there to be enough, like, I would say, unlike most people who've had that idea before, was very fair about, like, he didn't pick, it wasn't the rich people or it wasn't the people he
Yeah,
liked, or,
yeah.
it was like a completely random selection of people. Nobody had a better chance than anybody else did. He tried to be as fair about that as possible. I think the issue with his idea is that a lot of civilizations figure out ways to account for additional population. So, some, I would have, if there really are millions of worlds out there. Certainly some of them aren't, and some of them will perish because of it. And then some populations will discover resources that they weren't aware of before, or travel to places to find resources that didn't used to be available, and come up with ways other than eliminating the existing people. The other thing I will say, and I think this was even before the outbreak, is that young people are just having less children than before, having less sex than before is what the statistics are saying. I think that's an unfortunate outcome of people interacting through technology instead of in person, which I think there's a lot of downsides too as well. So I don't know that it's necessarily in the, when you look at the whole picture, a good thing, right? But people, spend more time on the internet and on social media and all these things than they do in person now.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
young people are having less sex. That we're having like, to the point where they're actually starting to get concerned that their future generations won't be big enough to support what already exists.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that was the deal. Is they really actually were expecting a baby boom after the lockdown, and they got exactly the opposite. There was actually less babies born.
Yeah, well, and I mean that was a trend that had already begun. So, I mean,
That's true. But what I'm saying is that they were actually expecting it to grow.
right,
We're expecting it to increase.
right. The flip side of that is I think that at least in part has to do with the fact that we don't feel like we had, like, it looked like we were getting to the other side of it, and now we realize we really haven't.
Right.
And so that's gonna, what they were expecting could have happened. We don't know, because we never got the it's safe, to go back to living how we want to, announcement, so to speak. Jack posted again.
Along with
Okay, he has a severe peanut allergy. I was trying to say I felt or thought that your daughter's condition influences your stance or how you see the forced vaccination, where I see it as, and I still do see it as, personal choice based on a personal understanding of the condition. I say inform people and let them do what they think is best. I'm not anti-vaccination. Uh, Go look CDC website at the numbers and deaths by age and how the disease. Oh, skip too far. This is a lot. How the disease kills by the numbers 45 to 55, 56 to 65, and then 60 plus. It's exponentially as you go up in each of these age groups. Agreed. I was looking at the deaths on CDC website from COVID. Even those deaths are nothing compared to cancer and heart disease, but there's no vaccination for those. Yes.
I kind of like those people that make that argument that like we're not going to be able to save everybody because there's other diseases and whatever, but those other diseases don't have a vaccine.
Right, and we're looking for one. Like if we found it, we'd put it out there.
And they would take it.
And most people would take it, and the other huge difference is, like, you having cancer doesn't put me at any higher risk of having cancer. So like that
Yeah,
really
you can't
is
catch cancer.
right. If you want to die from cancer because you don't feel comfortable taking the vaccine, then that affects you. You know what I mean? It doesn't affect everybody else. Hold on, this isn't done. Yes, every life matters. We cannot prevent every death and protect people from everything. Look at the kid on TikTok who must killed himself doing truck stunts. Vehicles is super dangerous. We just don't think about 30K every year die in the US. I do think of all those things. I mean, I
Now,
agree.
wait a second. Okay, I have one quick answer to the poor guy that got killed on TikTok. There is something that would have saved his life. It's called a seatbelt, and we require by law that people wear seatbelts.
It's true. It's
He
true.
got
But
thrown out of his truck, and the truck landed on top of him.
right. And even then, like, even it, like, that's not something that only affects him, because if you go out and do dangerous shit in a car, you can hurt other people as well. But the amount of damage that you can do, tragic, is still limited. I mean, you can, Woodstock, right? I mean, there was hundreds of thousands of people at Woodstock from all over the country. We have to imagine 40-50% of whom are not vaccinated. Maybe less people would have felt comfortable who weren't vaccinated going to that. So let's say it's 20% of people not vaccinated. Now those 20% of 100,000 people, and admittedly, I'm guessing at these numbers. I'm not, but I mean, make it less than that, 10%. That's 10,000 people who are going to go to multiple places all over the country who aren't vaccinated, who had a massive chance of getting infected at this thing. And how ridiculous is it to say, even if you're not saying you have to take the vaccination, you can't go to a concert where 100,000 people from all over the country are going to be at, because everybody's saying that this is almost certainly going to be a massive spreader, right? So you're talking about probably tens of thousands of people or more that are going to be infected, because everybody should have the right to not get vaccinated and go to a concert. I mean, that just seems
what concert
like.
are we talking about? Are we talking about a specific concert or just like a mythical possible concert?
No, Woodstock. It just happened. It's a real concert that happened.
Are
That
you
there was
serious?
yeah,
No, I
100,000
didn't know about
people.
it.
Yep.
Okay, because you said Woodstock, and I assumed you were talking about 1960s Woodstock.
Well, there was also one in '99, but no, I'm talking about the one they did this year. It was like Limp
We don't talk about the
Bizkit.
one in '99.
I mean, hold on, I'll look it up. They just had one.
And people were allowed to go without being vaccinated.
Yeah, it was not a requirement. Here's the website on it, and of course it doesn't have the dates.
Maybe Lollapalooza.
Well, maybe it was Lollapalooza.
So I had heard something about Lollapalooza, but I didn't know why they were talking about it.
Yeah, spell that. Let's see. Hold on. Lollapalooza.
Well, it's spelled with a lol and a palooza.
Okay, here we go. July 29th is when it started. July 29th to August 1st. And I gotta say, based on, I haven't seen the whole lineup, but that alone didn't seem worth getting sick over. It's like Limp Bizkit, Journey.
It says
Yeah,
it looks like they were like supposed to be fully vaccinated to show up at the show.
Miley Cyrus. Oh my God. I would not.
Let's see. Okay, here goes. Dr.
Proof.
Allison R. Wordley, an epidemiologist who is commissioner of the Department of Public Health, said rules requiring concert goers to be fully vaccinated against COVID-19 or to test negative for COVID-19 within 72 hours of the event are sufficient to allow the festival to go forward despite a surge in cases.
Okay.
Well, it looks like it was either negative or vaccinated.
Ah, not the same thing at all.
Not the same thing.
No. Especially now where they're saying that people. Oh wait, another post. Okay, hold on. Let me finish that thought. People who are vaccinated can be carriers, right? So people who were vaccinated could have been passing it on to the people who had only tested negative.
Yeah.
Cancer and heart disease, if you don't eat the foods we eat, we don't smoke and other things, etc. Diet and working out help prevent, and we don't force people to. Yeah, but again, that's true. There are a lot of causes of heart disease and cancer are due to bad diets, and we don't force people to change their diet. But again, my issue is not with the idea that if from the experts we're being told that the issue was only of not getting vaccinated was only to the people who didn't get vaccinated, then I wouldn't be having this conversation with you. And a few months ago, that was what they were saying. And if you go back and look at episodes of this show, you will hear me say, if the only consequence to not getting vaccinated is to the people not getting vaccinated, then, that's their problem, right? And you absolutely I would absolutely agree that if you have some ridiculous idea, the vaccine is not, again, I'm not saying it's perfect or that there can't be any issues with it. What I'm saying is we have proved to almost a medical certainty that your risk is higher from not taking the vaccine than taking the vaccine, regardless of what anybody thinks of the vaccine, right? So from a statistical point of view, if you want to choose to not get vaccinated and then you just get sick, you have that right. You have the right to eat fatty foods. You have the right to smoke cigarettes. I believe in all that. If you're an adult and you want to do shit that's gonna be more likely to make you sick, for whatever reason, I think in a free society, you have the right to do that. But that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about people making a decision that has a massive impact on lots of individuals as a society as a whole, on the ability for us to get past this massive event, an event unlike any of us in our lifetime have experienced. I have a problem that people think that, well, it's my choice and I don't have to worry about anybody else. I don't agree with that. You do have to. I mean, you're part of a society, and a good, strong society is better and stronger when we look out for each other. Do I think that means that, we have to share our money equally? No. I mean, there are, there's two sides of a rainbow. There's a happy medium where, we take care of ourselves, and when we can, we help out the people around us. This is something that we can all do. It doesn't cost any money. It's something that we've all been doing in this country since the day we were born, for eons now, right? And and very few people have had any issue with that whatsoever, except for a very small group of parents with too much time on their hands. Nobody has had any issue with vaccinations, and even the issues that we've had are any significant one have only been for a short period of time. I mean, we have as a society accepted the idea that in order for our society to function, when these diseases that pop up and will continue to pop up, we allow the smart people in our society to come up with something to protect us against it. We take that protection and we get to move on with our lives. And now, because people have decided you can't trust anybody about anything ever, and that there's always some massive conspiracy theory, because since throughout the history of time you can point to a few of them, then obviously everything is. I mean, that's how life works, right? I mean, it's a bit ridiculous. The theories that we're talking about, most of them are ridiculous. I mean, come on. I mean, they're ridiculous. What's his name is planting microchips in us? I mean, look,
I love that one.
It's so ridiculous because not only does he, why would he want to do that? But second of all, he doesn't need to. We can track everybody already. He doesn't need to put microchips in you, right?
You voluntarily carry
we
around
are all
voluntarily
letting ourselves be tracked all day, every fucking day, and we have been for like almost 20 fucking years. And now we're
I'm
gonna.
telling you, I believe it was that damn Pokemon app that actually like you accepted to play Pokemon, and then it like this, you also accepted to have your phone tracked by the government.
Good question, Bullet. What's your response to all the people that have died from the vaccine or develop issues like Bell's palsy? I haven't heard about the developing Bell's palsy from the
I heard the
COVID
Bell's
vaccine.
palsy. I
Okay.
heard the Bell's palsy, and it's actually less percentage of the people that actually got Bell's palsy from the vaccine or after taking the vaccine is less than the percentage that Bell's palsy happens naturally in the world.
And yes,
Not
there
to mention
are.
that, actually, sorry, and more people have gotten Bell's palsy from catching COVID than from the vaccine.
There you go. There's a good answer to that question. Look, nothing is 100%. I mean, that's the thing that I think we've become like really narcissistic in this idea that like until you can prove to me that there's absolutely no chance at whatsoever that anything bad will ever happen to me, you can't ask me to do something that will stop something that there is a massive fucking chance something bad will happen to me if I, you know what I mean, like yes, there is an extremely small chance. I'm trying to look up the number right now, but of all the millions and millions of people that have been vaccinated, the number of deaths from the vaccine is like it's 10 or something ridiculous. It's like unbelievably low. Hold on. Deaths from COVID vaccine. Trying to look it up.
Oh, nice.
Approximately 2 to 5 people per million vaccinated in the United States have severe allergic reactions, not death. More than 13 million doses. Identified 39 confirmed reports of people who got the no.
Wow. It was actually more than I
Two,
thought.
two. Oh no, that's something else. Go ahead.
I got, let's see, during this time, 6,490 reports of death among people who received the COVID-19 vaccine. FDA requires healthcare providers to report any deaths after COVID-19.
Yeah, that's
So it was
people.
unclear if there was actually the cause.
Right. It's not even unclear. That's just the amount of people who have died who have gotten the vaccine.
Yeah.
There's no way that every single one of them died from the vaccine. I'm getting 304. You said I was during the time.
I was about to say that was actually a lot.
People who are receiving. It's not though. I mean, you're talking.
No, you're absolutely right because it actually says the percentage because 346 million doses of
Right.
COVID
It's
vaccine.
0.0019% of the people who have been vaccinated have died, and of those people, they're not. That's just everybody who's died who's gotten the vaccine. That's not even necessarily people who've died from the vaccine. So do y'all both carry a gun when you go out? No, I don't. I have a gun. I don't carry it everywhere I go because again, I'm a numbers person. Like
I'm getting a gun safe, and then I'm getting a gun.
Where this argument always ends for me, and maybe it's because I think more mathematically than emotionally, but like the numbers don't lie. I mean, it is so much safer mathematically to get the vaccine than not get the vaccine. From a gun standpoint, statistically, it is less safe for me to carry the gun everywhere I go than to not carry the gun with me everywhere I go, because statistically, I'm more likely to get involved in a situation where either I get hurt or hurt somebody than I would if I just didn't have the gun at all. Now, if I am going to some place where those statistics become less than normal, and there is a much higher chance of something bad happen to me, it comforts me to know that in that situation, I could carry a gun with me. In my home, if something really, really bad and crazy happened, I have that gun if I needed it to. But I'm 42 years old, and I have guarantee you been involved in much more dangerous activity than at least the average person has. I'm sure there's been people out there who have been, much more dangerous shit than I have. But I guarantee you the average American has not gotten into as much shit as I've gotten into in the last 42 years. And I have never needed a gun to get me out of any of those situations. And I can tell you, if we had the time, this show is not long enough. I could sit here and list to you eons of situations where if I had had a gun with me, the outcome would have been significantly worse than it ended up being.
And the problem is, it's fucking Texas. So there's a good chance the other person has a gun too.
Yep.
So it only escalates things.
Right.
Like
That
if
said,
someone's coming, if reality is I'm gonna defend, I will defend my house and my home and the people around me, the people I love. But when it comes down to like when you're out and it's a gun versus a gun, someone's getting hurt no matter what, and most likely someone's getting killed. And that's a difficult thing, you know?
So are the chances of dying of it, if you do that math, it's total cases divided by world population, then death divided by cases, then you multiply. That math isn't making sense to me. I would argue that the math in ordering in order to decide, and I don't need the world population because I don't live on the world. I live in the United States. So using the world population would be less accurate than using the United States population if you live in the United States. And it would also
make it a smaller amount anyways, because you're dividing the world population is larger than the USA population, and you're dividing by it, so that makes it a smaller number anyways.
Also, I mean, I don't know worldwide. There's a lot of countries that are doing a lot worse off than we are. I would think that if you use world numbers, it would make my case better than if you use the United States numbers. But I also think it would be less accurate. I mean, we live in the United States. So, I mean, if you're somebody who's constantly traveling around the world, it would make more sense maybe for you to use a different number. But in this country, I mean, more than 0.0019% of the population has it's a population is like 3 million. What is the 300 million? We need somebody who just looks shit up. By the way, Jack, I tried to reach out to you. I mean, I know you're listening and participating. If you want us to send you an invite and pop on in, happy to bring you on, man.
The 0.0018 doses is only out of the people that have received the vaccine. It's not out of the total population.
Well, and it's also the amount of people who've had the vaccine that died, which could be somebody who died in a car accident or somebody who had a heart attack or somebody who shot themselves, or like it's not people that died of the vaccine. So that's like a very that number is very
misrepresentative.
Well, not just misrepresent, but like if we use that number and it's still lower, I mean, that's a very generous number for your side of the argument. And I think you're going to find that 0.0018 is smaller than the percentage of people that have died. Okay, so percentage of percent, what percent of Americans have died from COVID?
All right, so Bullet comments again, and apparently he says he's got us. Y'all played right into what I wanted to say. You don't carry a gun because you don't believe it's safer. For you or others, people don't get the vaccine for the same reason. Unfortunately, our feelings are backed up by numbers. Like the actual, I don't have it now, but there is a correlation to gun violence and carrying a gun.
Right. People aren't statistically safer when everybody carries guns. Like, so that would fall on our end of the argument, is that which isn't the main consideration. I was looking at it from me and the people around me, but the statistics show that when more people are armed, there's way more likely to be violence and death than when people aren't. So I don't know how that falls into the argument
Yeah,
that
it's still we're trying to back up our views with actual math and statistics, and that's the deal that we have trouble with as far as people not getting the vaccine is they don't seem to be backed up by
gun
numbers,
violence happens
math,
in
or statistics.
gun-free zones. I don't agree with you that more gun violence happens in gun-free zones.
Oh, actually, he's actually right. Gun violence is more apparent in countries and zones where they restrict gun ownership, but they still have guns. The gun
That
deaths are still caused by people carrying guns, whether it's legal or not.
right,
We're not
right.
talking about the legalization of guns. We're talking about actually carrying a gun.
That's a good
Carry,
point. And the statistic that you're quoting was a statistic where they did it based on the amount of guns per country. It didn't take into consideration that in a lot of those countries, you're not considering the fact that some people own 50, 60, 70 guns. And I don't think they're more likely to be violent because of the amount of guns they have. So I don't know that that statistic is the most accurate mathematical way to determine it. I would think that the amount of people owning guns as opposed to the gun per capita, it would be a more accurate description of that. But he makes a very good point. I mean, you're talking about gun violence. There can't be gun violence where there's no guns, right? So in those areas, there you're just talking about people who legally own guns, not people who don't have guns. I mean, if it's gun violence, you can't say it's higher because there's not guns. How did I mean? That's how the violence happened. You okay? Jack says, yes, sent you that new video where they did consider any deaths for any reason if the person who had died had COVID. So they die in a car wreck, they test them for COVID, and if positive, it's a COVID death and not the car accident. No, we're saying the opposite of that. We're saying the number that we're looking at is the percentage of people who died who have received the COVID vaccine.
well, he
And
said
what
he
we're
sent us a new video, so maybe that's what
oh,
he's talking about. But
okay. Well, that's
it
not
does.
we hadn't used
You may be
any of those
correct, but
numbers.
if the number and the percentage that we're talking about is for any death, then deaths caused by COVID is going to be smaller than that percentage number that we were talking about. It can't be larger. So
Right.
if they take out the
And
random death,
we weren't using any of those statistics because we hadn't actually found the number yet of percentage of Americans who died from COVID. So, no, I mean, we hadn't put any number out there yet. The only number we
oh,
put
he's
out
talking about the
there,
worldwide one. The one that we talked about the number of from point what was it 0.0019 or 18.
that was 0.0019 was the amount of people who had died who had received the COVID vaccine. That
Right,
was the
correct,
right.
correct,
That wasn't people who died of COVID.
right.
People who died from the vaccine, the opposite of what you're talking about. How many people died who had tested positive for COVID? Was it COVID related or not? We hadn't put out a number for that yet. We had only put out a number of what percentage of people who had gotten the vaccine had died. And that number wasn't even specifically based on the vaccine, but just people who had died who received the vaccine. I don't think we ever actually said a number of people who had died either in the United States or in the world from COVID. I hadn't found it yet. When we started talking about other stuff. So I hadn't put that number out. Chicago gun-free zone, yet worst gun violence in U.S. Again, I mean, I don't know how we can say that those
Yeah, we're
that
not talking
violence is
about
caused by
legalization.
not having a gun when it is gun violence. It would have to be places where violence is really high despite there being no guns, is what you're suggesting, is that if everybody had a gun, there would be no gun violence. Well, if Chicago has worse gun violence in area where it's illegal, that's still violence caused by guns. I mean, that can't be an argument for for how guns don't produce violence. It's gun violence.
Yeah, you seem to be talking more about the legalization or the criminalization of owning a gun in certain areas versus just the actual carrying of a gun.
Again, Bullet, we haven't once said how many people have died from COVID. We haven't put a number on that yet. We haven't found it. What we're saying is the percentage of people in the United States who have been vaccinated and who have died. I have not found the number for the amount of COVID deaths. So we haven't gotten to that point yet. We haven't put a number out there. We are suggesting that we think we can find math that proves that you're statistically more likely to die from COVID than the vaccine, but we haven't put a number out there, so it can't be fake because we haven't put one. We haven't said one yet.
And though I do agree with him that the numbers for the actual amount of COVID deaths is skewed and is kind of,
I agree,
because at the beginning they were hiding COVID deaths. Sometimes it was whatever, no matter what you died of, it was a COVID death. If you didn't know what they died of, it was a COVID death. So
yeah, okay, and that's what he just put up. He's saying all numbers are skewed. So if we put out a number, in his opinion, it wouldn't be accurate. Fair enough. That could very well be true. I still think, again, like, it comes back to me as a math person. Like, you can't tell me with 100% certainty. You're right. I can't tell you with 100% certainty. I can't tell you that there's a vaccine that's 100% safe. There isn't one. It reminds me of the whole shit. All right, we're gonna pause for 2 seconds here because I'm trying to send Jack an invitation so that he can join us, and I keep stopping to talk. Give me a second here, and let me just do this real quick. We're gonna bring Jack on the show, which will make me very happy because he's fun to have on the show, and I can stop reading his comments and just let him make the comments himself, which will also make me a much happier person. So give me just a second here, and
So take U.S. total COVID cases, divide by U.S. population. I understand that. Oh, damn. Bullet. Exactly. You can't tell us that the vaccine is absolutely safe, but you think everyone should get it.
Yes.
Tylenol is
right. Exactly. Nothing is 100% safe.
I'm talking and invite Jack.
Yes. Okay. Go ahead. You're making my point. Go ahead.
Tylenol isn't absolutely safe. Baby Tylenol, man, they took that stuff off the shelves for, like, I don't know, almost a year because that shit wasn't safe. Some of the baby toys we have to take off the shelves because they're not safe. I mean, there's certain throughout our lives, nothing is absolutely safe.
Yeah, you'd have to stop participating in society in order for things to always be safe, and even then, that's not safe. Like, there is no way to always
burn down your house.
Right, exactly. Jack, I think I just sent you an email, hopefully with the invite on it, and you can join in. That's what I'm saying, and that's what the thing I was about to say about the car. It's like the self-driving cars. Mathematically, it's been proven based on the ones that are already out there that aren't as good as they would be if we started to move to an entire self-driving situation. There are lots of reasons why people don't like them, but the most adamant argument is the fact that they're not safe. Only statistically, they're way safer. Even the ones that are already out there. If you look at deaths caused by the fully automated vehicles, percentage-wise, how many vehicles there are on the road, how many deaths there have been. If you look at it from a percentage standpoint, they are like 10,000 times safer percentage-wise than when we drive cars. And yet the argument seems to be, until you can prove to me that there won't be a single accident from a self-driving car, I don't feel safe using them. And it's like, but you feel safe now, where there's like millions of different people out there who are tired and drunk and eating their soup and putting on their makeup and reading their newspaper and fiddling with their radios and all these things. I mean, I'm not going to say what I do. I do a job where I am have more access to accident statistics than the average person does. And I'm telling you, humans cause like 92% of accidents. We are the reason for it.
Last weekend, there was another death caused by a wrong way driver on the highway. Someone that gets on the wrong side of the highway and drives the wrong way down the road.
You're right. Tylenol has been out forever. You're talking about a vaccine that hasn't. Tylenol hadn't been out forever when they put it out, right? I mean, that's true of every single medicine. Hadn't been out for 10 years when it first got released, and yet we accepted it and we watched the commercials and we bought it and we took it, and we just assumed or hoped that 10 years from now we didn't grow third arms from taking Tylenol based on the testing that they did. I mean, that's the case of everything all the time. Like, you know,
everything was new once.
And you have 0 chance of dying in a car accident if you don't get in a car. Yeah. Same with the vaccine, 0 chance of dying from it if you don't get in it, 97% chance of surviving COVID if you don't get it. Right. You're right. I mean, if we thought that a legitimate option was telling everybody don't participate with society ever again, and then you can't get it and you can't get sick, that would be a legitimate argument. I don't think that
I think we kind
telling
of tried that earlier this year, anyways.
well, it
We tried that
doesn't
with the
work.
whole stay home.
Right. This wouldn't be the whole population. Our population could probably survive with the people who want to get the vaccine but can't, just staying at home. I think that's an extremely large percent of the population, again, that you're asking to have what we know for sure to be a massive impact on the rest of their life, so that somebody doesn't have to take a very minor risk of having a bad impact on their life. Yes, I'm going to let Jack in.
Too late, I already did.
Oh, all right. Well, forget you. Hey, welcome back, buddy. I tried to text you before the show started to see if you wanted to play, but I didn't get a response. So glad we got you.
Can you hear me? Yeah, sorry, we have a little, we were celebrating a little bit for, my son has his birthday right after your daughter.
Sweet.
So, so we're celebrating Jackson's birthday.
Awesome. Happy birthday, Jackson.
So, yeah, so we're doing that. No, I don't know, because I think I sent you that video which shows like your chances. And yes, it was worldwide. I think the US would be the same, right? If you do the numbers, if you do the total
get it
cases divided by population, it's going to be like 0.25. It's be like 2.5% or something like that. Then you take deaths divided by cases, and that's going to be a percentage, like 2 point something percent, and you multiply them together, and that's your chances of dying from COVID. It's like 0.0000. We could do the math. I looked at the world population. World population is like it's like 0.000. It's less than the chance of dying from the vaccine.
I find hard to believe.
If your numbers are correct, right? Yeah. I think that math is correct, right? So your chances of dying from COVID would be in the United States, since you don't want to do the world, would be.
That's the number we were trying to look up and we never found.
So you go to CDC, find out what is total U.S. cases, and then you divide it by 327 million, whatever it is. Right, then you take the number that you took for cases and you divide that the deaths divided by total cases. Then you multiply those two percentages.
All right. So I was hoping that we would just be able to have somebody who had already done the math for us. So I was looking at percentage of Americans that died.
I sent you that one. I sent you the video where they did it for the world, but that was not for the U.S.
Okay, so we're gonna say United States population, because you're right. I it never had found anything where they had already done that math. Okay, so population is 331,449,281. For what it's worth,
342. You could do 342.
Okay, real quick, I gotta say, Jack's very happy with the math that you did, despite the fact that just a second ago he was pointing out that no matter where we got the numbers from, they weren't going to be correct. But I think he likes the fact that the numbers came out in y'all's favor, anyways. But anyway, let's do the math. Hold on. Okay.
Total U.S.
The U.S. deaths looks like 616,000. Is that right? Anyone else want to check that?
For what?
616,000
total deaths. Number of deaths. So you got to know the number of cases. The first thing is cases. So you have to do total cases divided by population, right? Because you can't.
You want to know the chances of getting it or dying from it?
Dying from it. You can't die from it if you don't get it. So you have to figure out what is the chance that you catch COVID is the first number you have to figure out, right?
Okay, it was 35.8 million cases of people having it, 616,000 deaths. I'm doing United States.
Okay, so then you divide 35 million divided by 327 or 334 million. That is the chance of getting it. Then you figure out deaths divided by cases, and then you multiply the two percentages. that's your chance of dying from it, because you can't die from it if you don't catch it. So you have to know what is the chance of you catching the disease.
Well, but that wouldn't account for like people that never caught it because they've been vaccinated or because they stayed home.
Math is math, right? Math is math.
Well, yeah.
So you have to figure what are your chances of catching it, right? So the chances of catching it,
but including people who can't catch it, like the argument is whether you should get vaccinated or not. If we're counting the people that have been vaccinated, that seems to skew the number.
What I want to compare is
wait, Jack, he is absolutely right. You have to take the people that are vaccinated out of the total population of the United States.
But then you have to know when they got vaccinated, right?
Or you could just look at total deaths and total population. I mean, I think that's a pretty accurate number. I mean,
no, I think it's skewed. You have to know.
Okay, you're right. I think it is skewed a little bit. I think the other number is skewed as well. I mean, I think both of them are going to give you a little bit less.
You can look at both, but right. And right now, obviously, it doesn't matter if you're vaccinated because you can still catch it. So I think it doesn't matter if you're
vaccinated. Die from it. And we're talking about deaths.
Yes. So
right. And we're also talking about whether you should get vaccinated or not, and to account for the fact that the number is going down because of people who have been vaccinated. That seems like an unfair argument that you don't need to get vaccinated because people,
all
what I'm saying?
I'm saying is, what are the chances of you dying it, and how you figure out the chances of dying it are those two more.
Well, okay, that might be what you're saying, but I feel like the original argument, the argument was to the statement I made was when you look at the numbers, it makes more sense to get vaccinated than not get vaccinated, right? That's and that seemed to be what everybody got upset about.
I'm okay
it's still a good math problem. You just
can do it both ways.
From the total population of the United States.
I think, and I still say, look, and I'm probably going to get my second shot. Me and my wife talked about she's going to get vaccinated too.
Yeah, I mean, I agree that your argument has always been whether people should have to, not whether you should.
My whole argument is show the data, show the science, let people make decisions for themselves.
Look, the thing, I understand where you're coming from, and under a lot of circumstances, I would tend to agree with that. Where the argument starts to become a problem for me is when I feel like a lot of the reasons why people are choosing not to get it are silly. Now, some of them are less silly than others, right? They don't, it hasn't been out long enough, and so they don't feel comfortable with it. For me, from a mathematical standpoint, I don't think that's a big enough issue, but at least that's a somewhat that's a legitimate concern to have, right? Yeah, but when you're talking about the amount of people who don't want to get vaccinated because it's a plot to get us all sick or to implant tracking devices under our skin. That it's like, I know that a lot of people aren't getting vaccinated because of completely ridiculous, nonsensical reasons that can I prove with 100% certainty aren't true? Of course not. You can't prove anything with 100% certainty.
What about the person who just says, look, I just want to see not emergency approval. I want to see the final FDA says yes.
They are actually concerned about that, so they are supposed to be releasing it within the next month. The latest I heard was.
What if somebody says, "Look, I'm not against
real quick. Let me just because this is really easy, Jack. My position on people with lupus and autoimmune diseases; those are the people that they should not have to get vaccinated. That's my whole point for this argument. If there weren't people like that, people too young to get vaccinated, people with existing conditions who can't get vaccinated. There are people who can't get vaccinated. That's my whole point. Those are the people who are at a much higher risk because of people who can get vaccinated not getting vaccinated. So no, I don't think you should force people who have an extremely high risk of getting sick if you give them the vaccination to get the vaccination. I think healthy people, like what we've done for hundreds of years in this country, should go out and get the vaccine because the science says they're healthy enough to get it. And then those people can protect the people who can't, which is what we've done with tremendous success in this country for a long time. And nobody can point back to like measles or where the masses went out and got vaccinated and there was this massive issue that came back to haunt us. History says...
Yeah, but there is cases that haunt us because you do have anti-vaxxers. And
percentages of
they're allowed to be anti-vaxxers. And they're allowed to be anti-vaxxers, right? Because they say it's against
the religion. We're talking about, that's just someone who doesn't want to do it. We're talking about actual people that have been like destroyed by other
What I'm
vaccines.
saying is the argument that we don't know that 10 years, 20 years from now, what's going to happen is true. We don't know that about anything. Like if you look like go on the internet and you can see from 1 year to the next, sometimes shorter periods of time than that, where chocolate is good for you, it's bad for you, it's good for you, it's bad for you. Caffeine, good for you, bad for you, good for you, bad for you. Fat, what kind of fat? Right. I mean, like that's the human condition. We don't have a guarantee. Like that is life. And it seems like we've more than ever in society, we have felt comfortable with telling science, like, unless you can prove that there is zero things to worry about, then I'm going to ignore the risk of not doing it and just concentrate on the fact that you can't tell me with 100% certainty that this can't hurt me. We've never been able to do that. That's never been an issue in life. Like we've never let life slow down or get fucked up and not do everything that we can to get back to normal because we didn't have 100% guarantee. Like that's
so now why I'm just about to jump on the other side just for this little piece right here that you just said, because I think the deal is, and one of the problems is that because of the multiple times that things have turned around in the past, people are requesting more certainty of whether something is going to help you or hurt you. Because
but those things turned around
years beforehand. We have been given stuff that people have said is medically approved, and it's going to make you better, and it ends up making you worse. Cocaine was a medication. Heroin was a medication that was approved by everybody. We used it at a regular basis and realized, hey, shit, it's not good for you.
Fentanyl.
And then later on, they made it illegal. So people nowadays, with the better technology, better systems, better testing, are starting to require better.
But we do have better testing. I mean, there was no testing when they decided that heroin and cocaine were good for you. It was some people that took it and felt better and said, you should do this because it made me feel better. It's going to make you feel better. There wasn't any scientific method to determining regulation.
When used appropriately, I think it can be. I mean, like, I think I remember in history in college, one of my professors had told me that, they found cocaine because these people in the mountains, they would harsh conditions and they would chew on the cocoa plant and it would help them, right? The cocaine would help them deal with the environment, and then eventually someone turned it into a drug. But I mean, things in moderation, things are always okay. It's always excess.
True. It's excess with those examples. They were only bad in excess. Of course, we also, right. We didn't know at the time that it was addictive and hard not to use in access once you started using it. But you're right.
Sugar elicits the same exact chemical response as cocaine.
It's not as physically addictive, but yes, you're right. It does.
We don't have a problem with that.
Right. Agreed. I'm not saying like I'm not making an argument.
Me and my wife had this argument because we put my youngest son in, even though we shouldn't disclose this information, but we have a youngest son. He's on Adderall, right, to help. And I was somewhat against it because I think it's wrong. It's a society that we constantly tell people, don't do drugs, don't do marijuana, don't do coke, don't do things that alter your mind. But here, you can take this one. This one helps you. It does the exact same thing. It's altering the chemicals in his brain, right? The same thing that marijuana does, the same thing that cocaine does. How are we going to tell someone at a young age, you need this mind altering thing, you need this thing, but this one over here, this one's bad. This one that grows from the plant is bad.
I think
this one we make at the pharmaceuticals, that one's good.
I think that the argument and they haven't always been done a good job of weighing these things, right? But the argument is, what benefits do using the drug give you as opposed to what downsides? And that, I mean, again, is the human condition. I mean, that's not
marijuana has a lot of benefits.
Agreed, which is why I stipulated that they haven't always done a very good job of determining the benefits over the downsides. But there's a difference between the people who were making those decisions not weighing those things successfully and suggesting that weighing the benefits as opposed to the negatives incentives is not a good idea in deciding whether something is something you should use or not, right? And that's not just drugs. I mean, I mean, you weigh your decision to get in a car and drive somewhere as, you know, that is a risky thing that you do every time you do it, but you decide that the benefits outweigh the risk, and so you do it.
I don't think you even think about the risk. I don't think anybody that gets in a vehicle even contemplates that.
I do, but you're right. Some people might
I
not.
don't think they do. You know, and like you said, and
I don't think everybody does.
I'm guessing from your statements you do something with insurance, but I know that most accidents happen within what, 10 miles of your house, because that's when you're on autopilot. That's when
that's true.
Right. That's when you're like, you know, you just automatically go into that
right.
Where you're not even thinking.
Have this natural feeling that the closer they get to home, the less likely is something bad is going to happen. That's definitely true. I can get in trouble for talking about what I do, so that's the only reason I'm not answering your question. But I
was just doing analytics.
No, that's fine. I can't get in trouble for what you say, but I can't acknowledge the statement. Yeah. But for what it's worth, the job that I have that allows me to have access to that information is not the only reason why I can say I'm a numbers person. Like that is.
So what did my number come out to? Did you do the math? Did you?
If we did it, I didn't do yours. I did mine. Mine was 0.0018, and the percentage of people that died after receiving the COVID vaccination, but we don't know what they died of, was 0.00018. So it's 100%. Now again, that was based on my equation. So I took the total amount of people and the total amount of people that have died from COVID. Those were the only two numbers I did. We can do yours as well. We'll do yours as well. I'd already started mine.
See, but I don't think that's not a fair.
I know. We'll do yours as well.
You have to do. What are your chances of catching it? Then you have to do. If you catch it, what are your chances of dying?
I understand. I don't think either one of them are 100% accurate. Also, I think it's worth pointing out that we're giving you the number of just people who have gotten the vaccine that have died, and not knowing what percentage of those people have actually been from COVID. And I mean, just the way numbers work, we have to assume all of the people who've gotten the vaccine who've died didn't die from COVID, right? So the number is actually probably significantly less than that. And yet it's still 100 times less than people who have just died from in the United States, period.
But I think
I'm not arguing with you. We can do that number as well. I don't think either one of them. I will agree that my number is skewed. I think yours is as well. I think so. I mean, maybe it's somewhere in between those two numbers, and we can do yours as well. I just haven't done it yet. Really quickly before we do that, you keep saying nothing is guaranteed, yet you're still saying everyone has the responsibility in society to get it. It doesn't go both ways. You don't get to decide for others what they should do or make them a villain if they don't agree. Here's the thing. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, if we don't have 100% guarantee with anything, why are we focusing on this one thing right now that we don't have 100% guarantee on? Why is it that we've either blocked it out in our heads and not thought about it, or are aware of the fact that we don't have 100% guarantee in anything, and that's okay until a new thing that we're not used to comes around? And then all of a sudden, we have these whole new standards of life as to what's okay and what's not, despite the fact that until COVID, every single person on the planet has either decided not to think about or accepted the idea that there's not 100% guarantee in anything. And now there needs to be, and there's never going to be. So now where are we stuck with? People are just going to continue to get sick.
I think it's scary when we give the government that control. And I told you last time, that's why I was against smoking bans. Was, while I may agree with them, I don't think government should give them any control, because once you give them that precedent, then what's to stop them from using that precedent again when they do it?
Yeah, that's a legitimate argument. That's right? That's a legitimate argument. I agree with that.
Because I want to protect you, then I could take something away, because I'm doing it to protect you.
Yes.
I'm doing it for your safety. I'm doing it for the safety of the community. That's why I'm taking this away from you.
Right. I understand that it's a legitimate, and it is, and it's a legitimate argument. My problem with it is debating the merits of whether or not we can, like, I know this isn't completely accurate analogy, right? But it's like, are we going to let the government run out with a fire extinguisher and put out the bridge, or are we going to let the bridge burn down while we argue whether or not it's okay to allow the government to put it out? I don't disagree. I agree completely with everything you just said. But my problem is the goddamn bridge is burning and we're all arguing about it. And my bigger problem is this didn't even used to be an argument. Like, we used to just do it and it used to be fine.
Yes, but see, the problem is, and you can watch the videos, right? The problem, a lot of it is the media, and that's our politicians. And you can watch, and look, I'm libertarian, a little bit more conservative now. You can watch Joe, you can watch Camilla, you can watch all of them speaking about it. They were worried Trump was going to get reelected, and they were sitting there, I am not taking his vaccine. I am not going to take it. You can watch the videos. And as soon as they got elected, now they're saying, hey, everybody needs to take it. It's just, I think sometimes.
You've seen videos of Joe Biden saying he wasn't going to take the vaccine
before he was elected. Yes, before he was elected.
Didn't he get vaccinated before he was elected? No, that can't.
There are videos of him saying, I would not trust any vaccine this man has made. Right, you go YouTube and look at it.
He didn't make the vaccine. All right,
I understand. But it's political, and I'm saying, sometimes I think it's sad that I think sometimes our politicians should just let's step back and do something for the people instead of our party and the party.
Well, I mean, I hate that this never would have, again, like, I don't want to say it was never. I mean, I'm sure there were smaller cases and so forth. But again, going back in time, like, we had people in society that we gave the responsibility of telling us what to do when shit like this happened. And throughout history, we just listened to them. It never became a political issue. Like, that person who we decided at that moment in time was the best person to listen to, which, yes, arguably could have ended up being wrong, right? That's the other thing that is the life experience, is that right now, all we have is the information that we have right now. And that is always going to be true of right now. 10 years from now, we will have 10 years worth of information. We won't know what will happen in 100 years or 40 years or 30 years. We'll only know what happens after 10 years. And that still won't be a guarantee that nothing bad will happen. 100 years from now, we could find that COVID is the safest of any vaccine we've ever gotten, or not, right? Whatever, it doesn't matter. Whatever the news is, 100 years from now still won't tell us what the results will be 1,000 years from now.
Like, I think I just saw the other day on the TV, they were one of the popular antidepressants from like the early 2000s, 2003. It was real popular, and they were like, if you took this antidepressant, you may be liable for some lawsuit against them. Something that they were promoting pretty heavily. And I think that's what Victor was saying. We've seen cases where they've promoted these drugs and then they come out later and because they hurt us.
Right. That is absolutely true. Right. And again, like, that is life, right? Like, that's life. We die, right? Bad things happen to us. We get hurt, we get sick. Things bad that they happen to us, and eventually we die. And so far throughout the history of life, that's always been the case. And as far as we know, that will always be the case, right? I mean, you're gonna take a risk in anything that you do every day. I mean, if you get out of bed, you're taking a risk. By the way, if you stay in bed, there's some risk to that. If you eat, there's some risk to that. If you don't eat, there's some risk to that. If you breathe, there's some risk to that. Of course, if you don't breathe, you'll die. I mean, that is every decision we make in life. It's always been that way. And as far as we can tell, it will always be that way, right? Unless some massive change happens, which is not impossible, but not very likely. We will die at some point, and everything that we do until that day is going to put us in a smaller or higher chance of that happening. And we often have no idea which decision we make is going to be more likely to put us at a higher risk or a lower risk, because there are things out there going on that we're completely unaware of all the time that could leading to a fucking piece of ice falling off an airplane and smashing us in the fucking head. I mean, that's the life experience. But scientists, really, really smart people whose job it is to protect us, are saying this statistically is the best thing to do. And we're saying, well, okay, That's not good enough. You need to tell us that I can do this and nothing bad can ever possibly happen to me, and then I'll do it. Then nobody's ever going to be able to do that ever. So are we just never going to take medicines ever again? Because if not, then how is you taking that medicine going to be any different than taking this one?
But I think it's because it's become so politicized, right? I think because it's become such a like the whole reason that you started this podcast is so that left and right, people in the middle can meet, discuss, and still find common ground, right? It's because it's become that. Like I don't know if you saw there's a local reporter here in Houston who went on Project Veritas, right? Talking about you can watch So one of my friends, I played the videos that she recorded.
I agree with you.
She recorded of like her news director talking about Bitcoin. She goes, well, we're not going to play that option. You can listen to the video. For whatever reason she had for recording the video, it doesn't matter. What she recorded is what she recorded. And what you listen to is her news director saying what they're saying. She goes, we're not going to do that Bitcoin at 5 because that audience is primarily African American. So if it wasn't African American, they would do the Bitcoin art, but they're not because it's African American. That's pretty racist. What were they saying that African American people don't understand Bitcoin, can't buy Bitcoin? I mean, it's just egregious. She recorded this, and I mean, you can watch her, and she basically said the same thing. That there was a local doctor in Houston that talked about what was that stuff, that medicine that they said could get rid of COVID.
I forgot the hell it is. Chloro something.
Chloro, which is proven to what I think they have proven what it does help, right?
Really?
And I think they have.
I think it can. It's not extremely effective, but it can.
Well, no, it's if you add something else to it. It's that.
I was gonna say it actually really helps if you get it from the fertilizer because you die.
No, well, that's the thing too. Is like the places that people were getting it from were in the amounts that they were using. I mean, like people.
I apologize. That was a joke.
It's a drug for like malaria, right? Whatever it is.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And you have to add something to it. But she even said
chloroquine
that she had talked, and that the lady she recorded, her boss said, he said, I've been told not to talk about this. And she basically said the only reason that he felt that they were told not to talk about it was because Trump had said to use it, so they just went against it.
Right.
It's pretty. I mean,
that's a great possibility because that's the way things are right now. That's one of the reasons why.
Right. I don't disagree with you. I don't think things should be that way. Like it's not to our benefit that we are choosing that we're going to. Yeah, I mean, there are people on both sides that are legitimate sources of information, and there are people on both sides that are not legitimate sources of information, unfortunately. Right. But just deciding that if somebody on that side of the aisle says something, I have to just completely disagree with it and assume that it's wrong is not a healthy way to live. It's sad. It really is. And we've had conversations about this on this show as well, that, when we grew up, the news was the news. It wasn't an opinion. It wasn't based on your political backgrounds. Like they fact checked it.
Right. Give me the facts and let me decide for myself.
And it's extremely sad that we live in a society now where it's harder and harder to find those sources of information, and that you have to take it upon yourself to check the information that you're getting with multiple sources, and you have to weigh the person giving out the information and based on other shit you've heard from them, how many times has the information they provided been legitimate and how many times has it been obviously politically skewed, right? It's sad that we have to do that.
I used to listen to both and try and decide myself. I used to listen to CNN and Fox and then try and figure out the truth was somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, that's exactly what I have to do.
Now what I do is I listen to, there's this podcaster, and he's an ex-liberal, and he used to work for who used to work for Vice. He used to work for Vice for a while, but he's still pretty liberal. But I listen to him mainly for my news more than anyone because he does. He says, look, I fact check my stuff. I have people fact check my stuff because you can see constantly, and Fox does some things, and then CNN's been caught in how many lies over and over.
No, they both have.
Nobody's suggesting otherwise.
And their rating, you can see in the ratings. Their ratings.
I think there are several sources out there that you can get fact-checked information from, and several of them that you can't, and that is a sad state of affairs.
Yeah,
But it is the world that we're living in, and I don't think we get to just shove our head in a hole and stop playing the game because we don't like how the game is being played.
I think that's part of the reason people are so hesitant.
I agree.
They keep getting lied to and lied
I
to,
agree.
and you know, stories come out later, and you find out it was a lie.
Yes.
You know.
Yes, makes things a whole lot more difficult.
So how am I going to trust you? How am I going to trust you if you've been proven to be lying to me, and it's been shown that you lied to me? It's hard to, like, who do you believe? Who do you trust? Right? Like you said, we should be trusting these people. We should trust the Surgeon General. You should trust, you know, Dr. Fauci. But, you know, I don't think there's a percentage of people that don't trust Dr. Fauci.
I agree with you. Obviously, that's a big part of the problem. I don't agree that he's given us a lot of reasons not to trust him. I know we had the conversation last week about the whole mask thing, and we gave our opinions as to why that's. I mean, the truth that, you know, the government has had legitimate reasons to keep us uninformed and lie to us plenty of times in the past. You know, I think, unfortunately, one of the downsides to making things as open as we've made them, and the downside to giving everybody a voice, is it's made things a whole lot more confusing than they used to be.
Yes,
and
everybody's a reporter. You're a reporter.
Right.
All you got to do is pick up your phone and record what's going on, and it could be in the news.
And we've opened up the government and the White House. And look, I think there have been lots of reasons why that's been a good thing, but there's been a lot of downside to it. I mean, I don't know. It seems like there's been lots of times in our country where when we've gone along with the government, things have gone really, really well, and there's been times when they haven't. That's the, you know, complicated part of the kind of society that we decided to have, right? And it seems like there has been times in the past where we have walked that line more efficiently than we are now.
But I think that's because you're seeing a general push, you know, from, you know, and I'm gonna hate to say it, from one side, right? I think, you know, I myself, I remember in college I wrote a paper on why we should get rid of electoral college. It wasn't until later that I thought that, okay, now I understand why there's an electoral college. There's electoral college to give every state a voice. We shouldn't be ruled by California, Texas, Florida, and New York, right? If you got rid of the electoral college, which a lot of people are pushing for, then the people of Montana have no voice. The people of Wyoming have no voice whatsoever.
True, but there is a legitimate argument to,
or Rhode Island.
Should a state,
or Rhode Island.
Should a state that has a significantly smaller population have it, like, why is it
that is why you have the House of Representatives, and that is that was the beauty of our country. The beauty of the Senate was to give every state a voice. The House of Representatives was to give the population.
But we are more one country than we ever have been before, and it does seem like states with really small percentages, you know, small amounts of people have a huge say. And why is it that because you're within the border that
they should get 1/50th? They should get a 1/50th state.
I don't. That's what I'm saying. I don't necessarily agree. No, I don't necessarily agree with that, because if they're not a 50th of the population, it is.
And one of the states. Actually have
at the time, the states were more independent of each other than they are now.
But you get your say as a population in the House of Representatives. I don't know. That's why you have.
Yeah, I don't know about how that whole they are more, because Texas, man, I tell you what, they're like a small part of wanting to, like, completely make their own country.
They are. I was talking to one of my relatives who said there's a strong movement in Central Texas where they're just so fed up. They're like, dude, you know.
And then Oregon, is it Oregon?
Half of Oregon. Half of Oregon.
Yeah, half of Oregon wants to go to where are they going?
Idaho.
Washington.
Idaho.
Oh, yeah, half of them want to leave their state altogether.
Because it's a rural against city thing here recently. You see that, and when you live in a city, you tend to be a little bit more liberal.
So we're saying that because of those,
they're not getting votes. They're not
that
getting
you're
a vote.
saying that
that's the two
we're not
examples we came up
more
with.
of one country than we were in the 1800s or the 1700s when we were literally like, I mean, like you really don't think we've grown anywhere closer to
I thought we
a
had.
country than independent states? I would I mean, I think there's a legitimate argument that in the last few years we've moved further away from that than we had been in previous times. But to suggest
That's
that
what I'm saying.
that but that doesn't suggest that we're still, I mean,
How do different countries form, right? How do different countries form, right? All of Europe, at one time you could see they change, right? France was bigger, Germany was smaller, was bigger. When you change history, when you rewrite history, when you see two sets of history, when you see that some people are saying we were started as a country in 1619. I mean, come on, no, we weren't started until what 1774, 1766. We weren't started till then.
1776.
76. We weren't started until 1776. To say we were started in 1619 when we were still under English rule, come on. I mean, we're not. But when you have part of the country moving to say we were started in 1619, when you're rewriting history and you don't share history and you don't share values, how do different countries
I've not heard
form?
that.
Right?
I've not heard that. Is that a new? That's a new movement
do
or
we
whatever?
really?
No, it's a this lady who works up north. She wrote it's a piece for like philosophy, racism in the country and society. It's meant to be like at a collegiate level, and that's where this new what is it called, the critical race theory that's being driven down to the elementary schools and the middle schools. It was never meant to be at those schools. It's meant to be like when you're in college and you're thinking
Sure.
and
Yeah.
true think piece. So then you're going to have this critical race theory, which is being pushed into the elementary schools, taught by teachers and professors who probably don't have the thorough education.
Yeah, the parts of critical. I was actually just watching a thing about this. The parts of critical race thinking that is being added into the younger parts of the education are not the same stuff that's being
Why
talked
talk
about
about race? Why talk about race at all?
Because it's a big part of our history. I mean, when you're teaching
I
history,
disagree.
why wouldn't you talk about
I
it?
think when you can stop seeing me as a brown, even though I'm olive, when you can stop seeing me as a brown man, I can stop seeing you as
You
a
talk to
white
me. I'm
man.
brown.
Yeah, you can stop seeing as
that's
someone. When you stop calling someone a black person, a white person, an Asian, when you just call them a
When they're just
person,
a person.
person.
you think
When we
you
start
think
seeing each other as
Mhm.
humans, I think racism to me, Victor could probably
So you don't
agree with
think
me on
people
this.
should be aware of the fact that, for instance, like black people make 40% less, or 8 times more likely to go to prison, or the wealth gap
But
between white and
there's also
black, or
underlying reasons for that. There's also a higher percentage of blacks that don't come from two-parent households, and it's been shown that a two-parent household.
right? You don't think that has anything to do with the fact that they were held back for 200 and something years?
No,
I mean, come on, like
because prior to the civil rights,
so it's just the color of their skin that has caused that to happen. I mean, there's we know that
prior to the Welfare Act that Johnson signed into law, the percentage of married of two-parent household in the African community was higher than it was afterwards, because that Welfare Act
okay, but
incentivized.
you can't have it both ways. You can't say that we shouldn't look at each other based on the color of
But
their
I
skin
don't.
and then suggest that the reason for the black people being further behind is anything other than the color of their skin.
I'm saying it's cultural, not race. I'm saying it's more culture that defines where you're going to end up in society.
And you think that the culture of the black community isn't massively impacted based on the fact that they were held back by our society for hundreds of years?
If it's about race, why do Nigerians who come here do better than African Americans that are born here, that are born here? Why do Nigerians? They're the same color,
because
right?
Nigerians aren't part of a population that has been segregated and held back against for 200 years. Culture, call it culture, fine. It's the culture.
They have a different culture.
But that culture has been massively formed by the fact that on top of slavery, we have built a society that for long periods of time was almost.
I see it like
if we concentrate on that, on the things that are
teaching people about it and concentrating on it aren't the same thing.
Yes, and that's fine. They have been teaching about slavery for the last 50, 60 years.
Right, but what they're saying is we don't want people to just be taught about slavery. We must also want people to be taught about laws that were enacted at the very beginning of creations of like police departments and governments that were structured around.
I was taught about a lot of that stuff. I was taught
So
about
was I.
carpetbaggers
Really?
after
You
the
were
civil
taught that
after the civil.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I was taught about carpetbaggers after the Civil War. I was taught
So was
about
I.
racial
Jim Crow laws.
things that were held back. I was taught about Martin Luther King
Those are
in elementary.
Martin Luther King is not a lesson on how large parts of our society are built on the foundation of laws and rules that were meant to keep certain parts of our population from achieving as much as other parts of our population. Those are two different lessons.
Yeah, but that's been
How
done
can
for
you
all
say
years.
that? It's a
That was
well-known.
Martin Luther. That was Martin Luther King's whole stance, was that the population of black people were being held down by the government. I mean, that was
held
what he
down by
talked
the
about.
government and being taught that the original police departments in our country were formed on keeping black people in check are not the same thing. That's not the same lesson.
All police departments. I mean,
Not all police departments. The original foundation of police in the United. Look, I love police, and I'm not saying we shouldn't have police, but it should be talked about that the original conception of a police department was based on keeping a certain part of our population regulated.
Look,
that's what they want to talk about.
Required reading was To Kill a Mockingbird.
Yes,
that's one of the. That's exactly that. That's one of those stance. It's specifically about cops, specifically about communities and how they think about black people.
There is a fundamental look. I can't believe I'm the one who's making this argument. But there is a fundamental difference between explaining that there is such a thing called racism and understanding that large parts of the formation of our country was about minimizing and relegating the black community in our country. Those are not the same lesson. The fact that racism exists and the fact that our country was built on a building block of racism are not the same thing. One could be true, but saying that racism exists doesn't mean that the other part is true. It could be true, but there's a difference in saying racism exists and this is why it's so part of our culture and our community, is because it starts way down in these cracks that most people don't even know about.
But I think we're progressing. And Victor, this is what I was telling you. Victor can tell you where my grandmother's house was and where I grew up. And who I grew up
we are progressing. Things aren't as bad as they used to be.
Look,
sure, that's true.
I really didn't even. You can ask Victor. Where we grew up, when I stayed with my grandma all the time, and until we moved over close to Victor, I really didn't see that many white people, right?
Yeah,
I didn't see that many white people at all.
My grandmother, we were like one of the only Mexican family in a large population. Black people, yeah.
Black and Mexicans, right? I didn't see any. I remember growing up.
By the way, that neighborhood, which I'm really familiar with for years past when you moved away from San Antonio, was like that until it got gentrified, by the way.
Look, Victor could tell you. Victor probably remembers too.
It's still kind of like that. Except for the very rich white people that are buying up land at such a high rate that poor black and Hispanic people can't afford to live there anymore. It's still like that.
But like
it was actually more black than Hispanic. My grandfather was one of the first Hispanics that ever lived in that neighborhood.
Still is, yeah.
But you can remember growing up, Victor, like if we saw a black and a white lady or a white guy and a black, you remember we would look.
Yeah.
I think now
it's not
take a second look. I don't even.
It's not one or the other. With you, things have gotten better, way better. In fact, go back and watch. I've had that conversation on every fucking show that we've done, and had gotten into heated arguments about whether things are better or not than they were hundreds of years ago, which to me is an obvious fucking argument. I mean, they're obviously better than they were, but they're not where they should be.
Well, how do you fix it? How do you fix it?
Ignoring how we got here, I don't. That's what I'm saying. Is look, I don't disagree with you.
Well, why even teach it? You look at small children; they don't even see race. If you look at
that's absolutely true.
They don't see race. My son's little best friend was black. He never asked me anything about his skin, anything about that.
It seems like I have been on the opposite side of this argument when we're talking about removing shit from the history books and not talking about it. And I'm saying we shouldn't do that. And now the other people are saying that's exactly what we should be doing. What the fuck is happening here?
I'm not saying. I'm saying that should be done. I don't think we should do it in elementary school. Maybe at junior high, but elementary school, I don't think it should be
when they're ready to think about it.
You
I think
should
it's nice that
introduce
kids don't think about it. You know, I think it's
Yes.
kids that they really don't think about it. They should be allowed to not think about it through elementary. You know,
junior high,
I
high
will tell you
school.
what's
Yeah.
hilarious. Yeah, what's hilarious is
I don't think
okay. Here's
teaching
a story.
somebody something's wrong at a young age is bad.
Why show them
I
the
don't think they
difference?
know it's wrong. Is the
Yes.
or I don't think they've even delved into that. I think it's the parents, if anything, that
So the
bring that
argument
into
is that if they don't find out about it until high school, life is going to be a better place. I mean, what's the argument there?
But look, it always
How
they
does
have
that?
a better foundation that people are just people. That
Yes,
kids
I
are
agree with
just
that.
kids.
Yeah, they like
I've
like
really
Jim because they like Jim. You know, just because.
my kids were have already got in their history classes talked about racism and Martin Luther King and slavery and all that stuff. They have no problem at thinking everybody is the same regardless of the color of their
Well,
skin.
listen to this. Listen to this. I go to a mostly black church, and I think well, this was like 3 or 4, maybe even 5 years ago. My son was like 8, and I was running around with him and his buddy who was black in the car, and I think a Mexican artist came on the radio, and my little black kid said, "Man, I hate Mexicans." And I was like, and I kind of laughed. I was like, you hate Mexicans? So do you know why you hate Mexicans? And then I had to like tell him that, that me and my son were Mexicans. And he was
Okay.
like, whoa, y'all are Mexicans?
So why does he?
Well, because he was taught some idiotic thing, and it was something that was possibly in him. But the actual person-to-person relationship, he didn't realize that Isaiah was even any way different than he was.
But for the point of this argument was the idiotic thing he was taught to him in 4th grade, or was it something that was passed down to him from somebody in his family or somebody, a cousin?
It was passed down to someone from his family or his cousin. Yes.
Right. That's not. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Is having those discussions in school, I don't think is what is spreading racism in this country. It's the fucked up shit that we pass down to our kids.
Exactly. But what I'm trying to tell you is that he didn't even see a race issue between me and my son and him at all. He didn't realize that my son was any different than he was.
Right. But
Until someone identified.
But the other side of that argument is, had he had a lesson in class about this, then he would have had another perspective other than just the fucked up shit that he had heard from his family, and might have already come to that conclusion without you having to point out that you and your son were Mexican, right? I mean, that's a possibility.
I don't know.
Yes.
I mean, if there was an educated, well thought out plan to teach people about these things so that they were getting something other than the ridiculous nonsense that people just pass down from generations, that could be a good thing.
Well, I see both sides. I do, but I also see it as being a very difficult situation as far as elementary school kids and teachers being taught that not only are they different, but they have different opportunities because of the color of their skin.
Well, I would agree with you if what they were asking to be taught was that we're all different, but I think what they're asking to be taught, and somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is just that on top of discussing slavery and racism, which are parts of our history and shit that we're still struggling with today, the understanding that it's more than just we had slaves, we freed slaves, and now we're trying to like everybody again, because there is more to it than that. Well, and we more than ever are people.
How do you fix it? I mean, and who did who the worst? Right.
But no, but you actually are teaching kids. You actually are teaching kids that they have different opportunities because of the color of their skin at an early age. I mean, you're teaching the kids that the country is set up against black people and minorities, not just black people and minorities. So then at an elementary school level, they're going to realize at this point that they have less opportunities than the white student next to him. And that is not a good thing to teach kids.
No, I agree with that. I agree with that 100%.
I don't agree with that. I mean, if the idea of what they're asking to be taught in elementary school was to point out that you know everybody has less opportunities, I don't think that's the basis of what they're trying to teach them. And I think
that's what's being taught. That's what's going to be taught.
I don't agree with you. I don't agree with you that that's what's going to be taught.
Saying you were just the argument you had with Jack was that black people were systematically kept back for 200 years, and they have not and cannot be caught up.
Yeah, you've been doing this a lot, where you suggest that something that you were told that leads your brain in a direction does that for everybody. Like if I tell you that you need to understand that there was slavery, and then after slavery this happened, and after that this happened, and after that this happened, until we get to today, you're suggesting that everybody who gets that lesson is going to say, well, I might as well give up because I don't have as much opportunity as everybody else, as opposed to teaching a generation of people to grow up and try to fix the discrepancies in what's going on.
And how are they going to fix it? How? Look at me.
So don't try anything because we haven't fixed it yet.
I'm saying that's the wrong course. But you look at me. I grew up from not seeing a white person to going to a high school where of 4,000 there was 200 of us, black and Mexicans combined.
Mm-hmm.
You don't think and some of my white liberal friends that are on Facebook now, they post stuff, and I'm like, dude, where were you when they were Mexican? They were making Mexican jokes to my face. You're sitting there laughing right with them.
I was both taking elementary. I mean,
but what does that have to do with realizing that there's?
What I'm saying is, I think that they're going to find out soon enough that there are people that are going to judge them based on their skin. And I've experienced racism. I've seen racism firsthand. But you know what? I think you have to like grow, and I think grow through that, and it's painful sometimes. And I don't care what lessons people are going to treat other people that are different, because that's what humans do.
They're not talking about fixing what's in people's minds, right? The idea.
Look at India. India, they're all the same. They have racism based on caste systems, right? I mean, people treat other people different. You can't do everything.
The idea of these lessons are not to suggest that we need to fix what people have in their hearts and minds. Hopefully that will just change over time, right? The idea of these lessons is that in lots of cities and states, there are still laws on the books today that discriminate against people based on race and culture, that we've been there from the beginning of time, that people don't even know exist, because we've just kind of tried to move on this idea. Hey, we ended slavery and now it's y'all's time to just start catching up. Everything is even now. Only it's not. Things are not even.
Then change the laws.
That's what we're trying. That's the idea. That's what the accomplishment of all this would be.
The thing is, I believe you are absolutely correct. You are absolutely correct about this, that there are stuff in the government that is set up to actually go against minorities. All right. But what is a 10-year-old or younger gonna do to help you with that?
Build fundamental ideas in their mind of what's right and wrong that they can use later on in life, because we know that there are certain parts of your life that are building blocks of who you become. Not enough. What is being taught, the argument, just so we can be fair, right? For the people who aren't in here who do agree with this, the idea is,
as a parent as well, don't you have responsibility as a parent to teach your children, look, we can appreciate our.
We're gonna put. Wait. Hold on. No. Yes, of course we have the right to teach our kids, but we're saying that we should take history out of history class and put that on the burden of parents.
No,
this is history. This is history.
I think history is history.
Well, y'all are saying they shouldn't teach this stuff, and parents should be.
I agree.
They don't. That is not the lesson that you learn in history. You do not learn in history class.
They taught it in my school. I did.
You learned about you learned about police departments being formed in order to hold back the black community that was quickly becoming free.
We lived about Jim Crow.
Those aren't the same thing. That's what I'm saying to Victor. You're suggesting that every single person has the mental capacity to decide that because racism exists, all these things must have also happened.
There you go. No, that's absolutely, it's wonderful you said that, the mental capacity, because I believe that the kids that are 10 years and old don't have the mental capacity to start thinking about these complicated subjects
later
on. What you do is you start and you sow the seeds. and you start telling them that, hey, racism is bad. We all should be
We
equal.
don't teach those lessons
Everyone
in middle
should
school or
that.
high school
Yes,
either, by the way.
Absolutely,
No, we do not. You're so full of
I
shit.
learned them.
You learned about
I
the thing I've been talking about this whole time.
But we went
No,
to
I learned about
No,
equality.
you learned that
I learned about
racism
equality.
exists and that slavery once happened.
No, we went
and
to,
that
I learned
carpetbaggers
about
exist. Well, that's the whole fucking
Hey,
storyline.
Victor, to be
No.
true,
Give me a fucking break. That's ridiculous.
Victor, to
That's,
be
I read
fair,
Tom
To Kill a Mockingbird.
Uncle Tom's
That
To
wraps
Kill a
the whole fucking history of
Uncle
racism
Tom's-
up in one book.
Uncle Tom's Cabin. I read that was a
Again,
requirement.
all
Sawyer,
of those
Tom
things
Sawyer.
do is discuss the idea that racism exists, not
exactly, which is what I'm saying is the seed
Foundation.
So
yeah.
the
But you're
foundation that
talking
you
about
use.
middle school and high school. You're not talking about elementary school. Where
that's
was
me.
the continuation?
I am talking about elementary school.
Right, and I'm
believe it should be taught
saying
in
that
elementary school. I did learn more in high school, and I learned
not
more
enough.
in
That's the
junior
point.
school.
The point of what you guys are talking about is that not enough of exactly what happened and
what
why
is
it
enough?
happened has been
What
taught.
is enough? What is enough? And who determines it?
And not only that, you
And-
came out of that system. You came out of that system, and you still have your ideals. Why is it so different now?
Cause look at what the. Are you serious? Because I'm okay. We don't have to judge the rest of the condition of society. That's
No,
why.
no,
Because hundreds of thousands of millions of kids have come through that system, and these fundamental things are still fucking in place. That's the problem.
That's not true. You even said we're getting better.
That's getting better and fixing.
That's the whole goal. The goal is to get better.
Right. In
The
this
goal is to
class.
be better than your parents.
Right. And the argument for teaching more is that we could get better faster.
And that's
what's
fine. Do it
with
at
that?
a junior and high school level. Don't do it at elementary
But
level.
you're the argument that you're making is that they're going to teach the same classes in high school that they are in elementary school. And that is not the idea.
That's not true. I'm telling you, do not.
You're saying racism
calculus.
shouldn't be a topic at all at that age.
You do not teach calculus in fourth grade.
And they're not trying to teach calculus.
Addition,
right?
Addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. That's what it is.
Still the plan.
It's a foundation.
Racism, exactly. Racism and equality is taught in elementary schools.
Okay, so I just want to make sure that I understand the argument. So your argument is that because you should teach more in high school than in elementary school, the idea of increasing what's taught any amount at any level would break that down. You can't go back and say, okay, we taught this much in elementary school, now we want to teach this much. We taught this much in middle school, now we want to teach this much. We taught this much in high school, now we want to teach this much. Why can't you do that?
That's exactly what I'm saying. That's exactly what I'm saying.
That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to go back.
That's what they do now. That's what they do now.
At a failed level.
They teach racism.
Why is it that on this show we have talked about so many times that up and until very recently, almost nobody was talking about the baked-in institutional racism in our society, and now we're all suggesting that all of us for decades now have been taught everything you need to know about racism, and yet somehow mass majorities of our population don't know about huge injustices that happen throughout history. But hey, we were all taught it. I guess we just forgot it along the way. I mean, they're not being taught that information.
I'm saying we should be taught about racism and about equality at an elementary level. At the junior level, you build upon that with more information.
So, okay, how about let me ask you this then. Since you're so against it, tell me what it is specifically that they're going to be taught. At what part specifically of the elementary lesson plan that you're aware of that you're against? Because I think that you guys are against this on an ideal level without knowing specifically what it is that they're wanting to teach in the lesson plans, which I'll admit, I don't know 100% of either, but I don't think any of us in this conversation does. And we're taking really hard stances on something despite not having the details of what it is they would like to add to the lesson plans.
I think he told you when he said that the system, if you're African American.
Okay, so what is it about the new lesson plan that goes against that? Can you tell me specifically? Are you sure that there is something But that's my point. How do you know without knowing exactly what it is that they want to add to the lessons of any age group? If you don't know exactly what it is, how do you know that it goes against what you think should be taught?
So then we should stop arguing completely. Is that what you're saying? Because then
Sure.
you
I
don't
mean,
know
if
either.
nobody knows the answers to that, but isn't that what we all do? Like, we're all like, I'm defending it because I don't think they're gonna be taught anything specifically horrible. You're against it because you think they are.
We should find out what's going to be taught. I think that's the thing. We should find out what's going to be taught. And I agree with Victor. I don't think we should tell someone at that level when their brain's developing, the system's stacked against you. Give up now.
Exactly.
I think it says.
I think you can teach more than is taught without teaching that it's rigged against you, and you might as well give up now. So yes, I would agree. What is it that they're wanting to be taught would massively impact whether or not what you're suggesting is even going to be an issue, because you don't know that it is.
I mean,
all we really know is that there are a group of people that think more should be taught.
But if they're teaching this country was founded in 1619, I'm completely against that. I mean, this country was not founded in 1619. It was not. You know, the whole, you know.
It's 5:25. Do you want to call it, and then we'll do our research and meet again next week?
You never did do my math. You never did do my math, Adam.
Yeah, you're right. We didn't. Let's do it.
I actually got really close.
Let's do it. And go. You finish it. Bullet, a long time ago when we were talking about COVID, said, I'm going to put this out there. People like me aren't getting vaccine because we think the whole pandemic thing is BS. We don't doubt COVID is real. We doubt everything we're being told, which includes the numbers they skew to scare people. We haven't worn masks or social distance in over a year. We've virtually been affected up until 4 days ago. I think we virtually haven't been affected. I'm paraphrasing, but I think that was what he was trying to type. Until 4 days ago when his wife got COVID, but she's doing good. I'm glad to hear that your wife is doing good. That's fantastic. Look, I'm not suggesting that if you did nothing, you will get sick. I'm a numbers person. To suggest that would not be following the numbers. I think you could not do anything and not get sick. I also think people doing everything possible can get sick because more of us aren't getting vaccinated. That has been my argument. Now, as far as whether or not the whole COVID thing, I guess a lot of people say that, right? Whether it's how real it is, how much the numbers are skewed. Nobody's given me any legitimate reason why. What's the benefit of that? What do politicians on either side of the table get from you wearing a mask if you don't want to?
Power and money.
No, literally. Hold on. He said, we haven't worn a mask and we haven't social distance. Who gets power and money from you wearing a mask specifically?
The mask
I can't think of
the mass producers.
Okay, and they're not the people that anybody's not trusting in these news. I haven't heard anything from mask producers.
I want to look this math up too, because I saw one where it said
the government isn't making money off of vaccines. So convincing you to go out and get vaccinated.
So it's almost identical. I did the math. It's almost identical. Number of deaths from the vaccine was 0.0018%. Right. Number of deaths using
from the vaccine was 0.00018.
Yeah, 0.0018%.
You missed the zero.
Okay, 2 zeros.
3 zeros.
It says only 2 zeros here.
Let me look it back up.
He's got the calculator.
And then from Jack's math, it's 2 zeros, 189. So 19%.
The same percentage.
Yeah, 0.0019 and 0.0018. So it's damn close.
Except I don't agree on the number that you're using for deaths caused by COVID.
No, but I would like to look this up. Maybe you can look it up for next time. We talk about lives and death, and I forgot what they said it would cost to feed the world. I saw this thing. It was so many billions of dollars. and what we've spent on COVID, we could feed the world. I can't remember if it's like for 50 years or 100 years, we could feed the world for what we've spent on this disease.
We can
And
already feed the world.
I
We
think the
already
world.
produce enough food.
I think the world.
One, what's his name? Bezos could feed the world.
Yeah, we can already do that.
I think, but I think starvation. How many people a year does starvation kill?
In the United States or around the planet?
Worldwide.
Worldwide, it says,
about,
which is weird.
I mean, I'm not
7 billion
suggesting
to
what
265 billion per year. That's
7 billion die. 7 million die every year from starvation.
7 billion to feed the world.
Yeah, and we donate as a country more towards helping.
But I'm just saying, we talk about
everywhere.
lives and how important lives are. You look at what we spent. We could have fed the world for how we spent $1 trillion. So 7 billion divided into.
I mean, I think that's a tough argument for people to suggest that even people from a state level get to decide what they want to happen in their state, suggesting that because we want to
end I am 100%
a national
local,
pandemic that
we
shouldn't, because we could fix the world instead. I mean, that's a totally different argument.
Yeah, I mean, it's an argument against doing anything. I mean, you could feed the world for the amount of money that we spend on roads and bridges.
Right,
or campaign money for the last
or campaign presidents. Money, exactly.
Yeah, I mean,
absolutely.
You could have fed the world. I don't know how many times for what both of them.
We could also, I mean, Bill Gates right now is trying to create clean, healthy.
Bill Gates is against population. I mean, he says we have too many people as it is.
Well, that's interesting because what he's doing right now is going to massively increase our population numbers, probably more than anything we've ever seen. So I don't know how against it he is.
All the math shows that as the world is going to peak in the next 10 years, and then it's going to be in a sharp decline immensely. Even China's seeing a reduction because of their one-child policy. And I said, yeah, obviously there was no mathematician.
I thought that was gone now. Isn't that gone now?
It is gone. It is gone. I work with a guy who's Chinese. He's here on a visa, and now they're promoting 2 to 3 children because obviously no mathematician thought about the policy. If you have 2 people and only one person replaces them, you're going to reduce your population by 50%.
Right.
Sure, so, but I mean, that was the purpose of it, was that they, at the time,
yes, they didn't think that when you live in a society where your retirement is based on living with your son, that you're going to skew the male population.
Right. Bill Gates is right now trying to come up with safe alternatives for, waste. I don't know how to call it that, right? And very small percentage of the population has plumbing, right? And so in those places, they go to the bathroom and then they
in the river.
dig a hole, throw it in the river, and in those areas, the highest rate of death in those countries is from diseases caused from the stuff that's in your shit, essentially.
Yeah, because I believe in the environment fully. I believe in taking care of the planet, but if we are not the problem. I mean, the United States is the leader. Yes, the United States can always do better, but we are not the problem, right? As far as
there are other places that are much worse. Sure.
China, India, Vietnam, and these people that they're becoming industrialized. They're making new coal plants.
We could do a lot better. I mean, it's a fair argument.
Who are we to tell them, hey, we came up on coal, you can't?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, people that live on the same planet. I mean, it's a legitimate argument. But like, it's the same thing as I think in order to be successful at all as a parent, you have to be, what's that word? Where you tell people to do shit different than you did. Hypocrite.
Do as I do, not as I say.
Yeah, if you're a parent, you're a fucking hypocrite. Every parent's a fucking hypocrite because you've gone out and experienced and learned more and you know better. And so you teach the people, you teach your kids who haven't experienced everything you have. You try to impart on them the knowledge that you've gained from from your experiences. Being a hypocrite is shitty in some situations. In some situations, it's the right thing to do. Like
no, but then we should come up with. We should be over there helping them solve these problems because. To me, I order stuff and I used to do inventory and I used to do inventory reconciliation. You always go for your biggest problem first. So you go to who's creating 60% of the pollution first and help them fix their problem.
Sure, that's a good idea.
Versus the guy who's doing 2% or 1%.
Right.
That's a good idea.
Go fix 60%. You're gonna knock, you know, the biggest portion of the problem out. So you know, if we're serious about it, we should be over there helping China find.
Well, I tell you, you
build
know,
new power plants that are not coal.
One of the things that science has in recent years proven to be the most likely successful way to reduce our carbon footprint enough to keep from not destroying the planet. I always hate it when people say destroy the planet. It's going to be here. Right, it's us. That's the problem. Yeah. The planet's going to keep spinning long after we make it uninhabitable for
13
ourselves.
years or 12, or we got 12 years now. But
they, you know, they've said that if we would start farming the way we used to farm before we you know, latched on to the way that the fucking Germans did it during was World War I, World War II.
If we lived like my grandparents lived, if we recycled,
yes, but this is okay. But the difference,
diapers,
the difference between your idea and this one is it's one that you don't need every single person on the planet to agree to do in order for it to work, right? We would just have to get people who farm large tracts of land to farm something year round, as opposed to plowing the fields, drying it out, and having all of that living shit that sucks in carbon monoxide down into the planet where it turns into fuel. And if we did that, if we left vegetation on the planet year round like it was, you know, 100 years ago before we started farming that way, then most scientists agree that there'd be enough vegetation on the planet to pull down all the excess carbon dioxide that we've put into the atmosphere and put us back to where we were like fucking 80 years ago or some shit like that. And it's not only is it not hard to do, but the experiments that they've done on it shows that it's not work that's not any harder for the farmers that already work their asses off, and it's more profitable. Like, it is a legitimate way to where you can ask somebody to do something that, you know, first of all, it's not everybody. It doesn't take them doing anything more than they're already doing. It doesn't ask them to make less money or produce less food. Quite the contrary. You'd actually make more money, produce more food for the planet, absorb more carbon monoxide. And in the G7 summit that we skipped, like all but two, I don't know if it's countries, continents, whatever, agreed to start moving in that direction. And us and China, the two that would need to do it the most, didn't show up and refused to do it. And everybody's saying if we did it, it would, I mean, they're saying like within a couple of years, we could suck down the carbon dioxide to put us back decades to where we were decades ago.
What I'm saying is I think our grandparents were more environmentally friendly than we are now.
Yes, right? They were. They
cloth diapers, even though
right. Everything now is about use it and get rid of it.
Recycled glass Coke bottles. I remember going with them to return them, and no dryers, right? They air dried their clothes, so you know, because your dryer probably eats some of the most electricity in your house.
To be fair, it was because they couldn't afford to. I don't know that it was necessarily because they were better stewards of the world, but you're right.
They were better, regardless. They were better stewards of the world based on what they were doing.
But not by choice. But yes, they were. Agreed. Yes. But we have had, I think, almost since the beginning of human beings, a need and desire to make things as easy as we can make. There is. No, I'm not disagreeing with you. You're absolutely right. And we could make those decisions. What scares me is that we're asking people who refuse to put a mask on their face to do things that are going to take way more time, way more energy, and way more sacrifice, like actual sacrifice to do that. And if we can't get people to put a mask on their face, how the fuck are we going to get people to make those massive changes in their fucking life? I mean, we can't get people to stop driving SUVs. I mean, like any little thing that we ask people to do now that we know would have a massive impact on our planet and the likelihood of us continuing to be able to live on it, people essentially say, you can't ask me to give that up. I like that. I like having it. Why should I have to stop doing that? Not everybody, of course, but
there are still things that we can do, because even like the SUVs, like specifically the SUV you own, is eco-friendly. It turns off when you're not moving. It
Things
uses
are
less
better than they
gas.
were, for sure. I mean, look, we have been good. If you look at our emissions in the United States, we have dramatically reduced the amount of emissions.
And
That's fantastic, and we should
that
Yeah,
continue
but
to
is
do that.
a big part
that's
of that,
due to litigation.
big part of that
That's
is
due to
natural gas,
legislation.
and
Sure.
a lot of that's natural gas as well. You know, people, because I mean,
Yep, that's part of it.
natural gas is a huge thing, and I always tell people if we really really wanted to be serious, nuclear is a very, but no one wants to go there.
Not
Everyone's
only
scared.
is nuclear a good idea, but that's another thing that Bill Gates is working on top of the waste-free toilets, is that somebody has already come up with an idea for a plan for a nuclear reactor that uses the leftover nuclear waste that we are creating from the existing nuclear reactors that we don't have anything to do with, right? And by using it instead of the system that we use now, it's really fucking safe. They're like, the problem with nuclear reactors now is that if you trigger a meltdown, once you get past a certain step, there's nothing you can fucking do, and we're fucked, right? And the disaster is fucking massive. And it's a little scary how easy it is for those things to happen, and we would essentially just be hoping that humans that fuck up all the time don't fuck up and everything goes fine. But with this new plant, it wouldn't be impossible that there would be a disaster, but it'd be unbelievably less likely, and the effect of the disaster would be significantly less impactful. And he's been trying to find a place on the planet where somebody will let him build one of these things and prove to everybody how amazing an idea it is. Because you're not wrong. As when it comes to waste, nuclear reactors are better than anything we've come up with by far. They create so much fucking energy. They produce such little waste. The waste that they do produce is pretty fucking nasty, and we can't figure out what to do with it. But even then, I'm a numbers person, right? And the numbers say I don't like the idea of nuclear reactors, except that it's a way better idea than everything else. And when it comes to numbers, you're not going to get a guarantee. You got to go with the best option you have right now. It's the best option we have.
Because I even told someone, I said, everybody says we need more wind, we need more. So I said, look, I think you need all three, right? I think when there's wind, you use wind. When there's solar, you use solar, and you use less gas and coal. But you have to have the gas and coal available for when it's
right
cloudy,
now you do.
For when it's cloudy and there's no wind.
Right now you do. The one thing that's worth pointing out is all of those technologies have gotten I keep using the word significantly. My wife tells me I use that word too much. Substantially better at producing and saving energy than they originally were, right?
The problem is the batteries. We don't have batteries efficient enough to collect the energy that they produced and store it to be able to return it. We don't have a battery.
Right, at present.
We don't have a
that's
battery.
Right.
We don't have a battery.
They are getting better.
But
that's my only point. It's not an answer for today. Ideally, as we get more efficient at it, it might be an answer for the future. But right now, we could not live off of solar, wind, and what's the other one? No, we produce
natural gas and coal.
Yeah, we use way too much energy for those to be the sole source of energy.
Well, no, because the wind, when it's up, it can produce enough to almost power the whole thing, but you don't have the wind all the way up all the time.
Right. Same thing with the solar panels are way better at collecting energy than they ever were. But you're right, you still have to store it for when they're not collecting enough energy. I mean, there are places, I think on an individual level, you can create a house that with wind and solar, if you're smart about it, you could sustain yourself. But we can't do that. We don't have enough to do that for everybody. Yes, and it's too expensive. Yeah, most people can't afford to do it. Absolutely.
Yeah, there's this professor out of San Marcos that he actually lives like on the campus with a house that he built himself, and he's got 2 wind generators, and he basically is completely off the grid. He dug a well for water, and he does the wind for power.
There's also like construction techniques that reduce the amount of energy you need to keep your house hot and your house cold, or so that you don't need to collect as much energy in the first place in order to do what you would normally do. They don't. The problem with that
Yes,
is
you'd have to go
those,
back to building houses like
right,
one of our aunts and uncles have. That's a rectangle because it's designed for wind flow. The houses we have now, they're pretty and they got nice shapes,
right.
but you need air
It's also
to
like
push through.
building houses into the natural like
Yes,
layout of the land that allows you to take advantage of like the cool ground and all that shit. But you're right,
Yeah.
100% true that that's not something we can do today. Right now, we can't go and change everything to fit to what it would need to be in order to live off of those things.
You could if you went nuclear. If you went nuclear,
Yeah, right. Nuclear would create enough power. Absolutely, absolutely. And while I 100% agree with you that it's the best option that we have right now, if we went with Bill Gates, and it's not his, somebody else created it. He's just out there trying to get people to promote it and get people to recognize the power of it. I wouldn't even be that concerned about the plants he wants to build. I mean, there is some risk. There's some risk to everything. It's not.
But like, where are you could build it? Like I said, I'm in the oil and gas. We deal with explosives for fracking, and our explosives are not anywhere by a city, right? Because of that, right? There's a chance they could go off.
Right.
They haven't, and, it's very, 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 very low chance, but still, they're not next to a city. We could build the nuclear plants out in the middle of Texas.
Right. And these ones that he wants to build, that's what I'm saying. Like, if you built them in the right places, the chances of them having disastrous impacts on large populations are not as significant. But to your point, like, it's my same argument for COVID. Like, is it the best possible perfect solution? No, it's just the best one that we have right now that's going to keep us from making our planet uninhabitable, which is not an option. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's great to say, well, just come up with something I like better. Well, okay, but if we can't, then we either all die or we do this. And is that what we want to do? Maybe not, but it's better than us all dying. And that's the alternative, right? Like,
we obviously wouldn't all die if my math is correct and your chance is 0.0019 of dying from it.
Right. I was talking about the global warming and our lack of energy.
No, I understand, but you went to COVID. I said, but obviously we would all. Even
my suggestion wasn't that we're all going to die from COVID. You're absolutely right. That would never happen. That's definitely true. Honestly, when it first came out and they started predicting the numbers of people that would be affected by it, my math mind said that's pretty good fucking odds.
It was better than the flu. I mean, most of the numbers were better than the actual regular flu you get.
Well, no, they said it was eight times as contagious. So then you would see, not quite.
More people were going to catch it, and certainly more people were going to die. But my issue then became what I didn't consider was not just the amount of people that were going to get infected and die, but the impact it was going to have on the resources that we do not have for a situation like that. And the idea that, like, if other issues that me and my family have, right, my daughter's diabetic, so not only does that make her more likely to catch it and have a horrible reaction to it, but it also means that there's other shit that she could have a problem with, that I'm going to have to take her to a hospital full of people sick with COVID and hopefully be able to see a fucking doctor, but might not be able to, right? That shit scares me, right? Like, it's not just what happens to the people that get COVID, but the rest of us who have other issues that we need to deal with. There's people whose cancer got so much worse than it needed to because they couldn't go and get the treatments that they were supposed to get or didn't feel safe to go and get it.
First they canceled non-elective, or they canceled electives at hospitals. Then they started canceling non-emergency.
Right. It's a bigger impact than just people who get sick and die from COVID. And that's when it became, and look,
trust me, I see, like I said, I do purchasing. I see it every day.
Yeah.
I can't get everything we need.
Right. I mean, well, sure. Right. I mean, there's all kinds of cars are getting harder to buy now because there's not
a shortage on chicken wings.
I can't get my fucking PlayStation 5 to save my fucking life, people. Somebody help me.
I did get my Xbox Series 10.
Nice. They're a little bit easier to get, but still hard. I mean, here's what pisses me off to no end. I follow like 10 people on Twitter, which I don't use, okay, so that they can alert me to when fucking somebody is selling them. The only problem is
you can probably get a PS5. You just have to pay more for it.
Yeah, right. Too much. If it was like $600-700, I would do that. I'm not going to pay twice as much.
I think I paid $100 more for my Xbox.
That I would do. That I would gladly do, but I haven't. I've seen a couple of places where I could, but I don't know the place, and so I don't feel comfortable sending my money and assuming I'm going to get something back for it.
I was a little nervous because I bought it from an individual off eBay, but
yeah,
hey, works fine.
eBay guarantees their sales, don't they?
I believe so.
Yeah, I'd be okay buying it on eBay. I'd be okay buying it on Craigslist because I would just go and meet the person.
Your chicken wings is because of the unemployment checks, because I was listening to
it's the production altogether. I mean, it's
but the people that you need to work there are going to work because they're making more by getting unemployment than they are by going to work.
Yeah, but part of that isn't that.
You can see it.
Isn't that part of the fact that didn't Trump, before he left, didn't he make it impossible to sue meat production companies for any kind of condition that caused you to be at too high of a risk of, because that was a big issue, right? Like some of our biggest fucking outbreaks were happening in meat processing plants where in order to process the amount of meat that they wanted to process, they made people stand really close together and do all this shit that made everybody get it.
I mean, that's just right. The means of their production, because when you're producing stuff,
they now have screens
space, right?
They now have screens in between each other.
Yeah, but
they're actually space,
right? Yeah. When you're manufacturing, every square footage, if there's not a piece of machinery there or someone standing there, is a waste of square footage.
Sure. I get it. I mean, I've owned a business. I totally understand that. Right.
But PS5, $1,200 at Walmart, right. Or the other one is at $915 at Walmart.
Right. I found a place that was
that's not bad, right? $915. How much is regular? What, $800?
$500.
No, it's like $500.
Yeah, $500.
I think I paid. Okay, I think I paid $699 for my Xbox Series.
Right, I would pay $699 for my PlayStation, but so far the only places I found are some company I've never heard of before, and you hear all the time all these people that are creating shit to sell fake fucking PlayStations, and so I'm like, I have no guarantee I'm gonna get the fucking PlayStation. It's like when I got my dog, and they were like, yeah, just send us a check for $2,500 and we'll ship you a dog. And I'm like, oh yeah, sure, that's gonna happen. No fucking way. I don't know who the fuck you are. I'm never gonna do that,
I think I'd have to make a trip to go see that dog.
That's what I did.
I did too.
It better be one hell of a dog. That dog better be up in the fridge and bring me a beer.
I flew to Colorado and got the one I have now, so that I didn't give the person the money until the dog was in my lap. I had the papers. I had the fucking all the shit about the vaccinations that had gotten and the fucking,
You got some guarantee, right? If he dies within a certain amount of time, they'll give you a new dog.
I don't know how that works. The last dog I had was an English bulldog, and my wife bought it for me as a surprise birthday present because I'd always wanted an English bulldog. And she found a breeder that was breeding miniature English bulldogs. And they were honest. They said it's not actually a breed. We continue to breed the smallest of the litters with, the idea that we're going to make them smaller. And the way dog breeding works is when you've successfully had, I don't know how, 10, 15 litters where, I don't know what the number, 75% of the dogs in the litter are below us, meet the requirements to call it, of what that breed is.
Call it a breed.
So, right. So like a miniature English bulldog, if they had the weight had to be with under 20 pounds or something. So when they can produce enough dogs that are under 20 pounds, then it's actually a breed. Until then, it's just somebody trying to make smaller bulldogs. Right. And so they were honest. That's what they were. It wasn't a breed yet. And so my wife paid extra with the idea that it would be like an average bulldog is somewhere between 35 and 45 pounds. And so ours was supposed to be under 30, hopefully.
Let me guess, he's 35 pounds.
He's 85. He was 85. No, 90. I think in his full size, he was 90 pounds. And he wasn't fat either. He was just a big fucking dog. And so we like, a year later, we're like, what the fuck? Like, I get that it might not have been small, but like you sold me a bulldog that ate a miniature bulldog. What the fuck, And they were like, if you want to send
and you paid extra for it.
right. So we called the breeder. They were like, if you want to send the dog back, we'll send you another. Yeah, I'm going to send my dog back after I'm not going to send a dog back after like 3 fucking days. You know what I mean? Like, they knew they had us, So we just had a monster fucking bulldog. And he was a great dog, just wasn't small. All right. Yeah, now it's closer to the time we normally do this. So we will look up, what was it? What's it called again? I was just watching
Critical
this shit.
race theory.
Yeah, critical race theory. We're gonna look up
what is the curriculum that would be taught in elementary school?
Yeah.
Junior high and high school, I'm not so concerned because I agree with Victor. I think mentally you're able to process. Because I remember, I remember in college when they were talking to us that there's a reason they teach you to write papers a certain way, that it progresses because you cannot write papers at a collegiate level because mentally you're not developed enough to do it and to reach that level.
We also know that learning certain things at a certain part of your development is what locks it into who you are as a person too. But here's the thing I will say, I know in the thing that I was watching the other day, what the person that was for the idea was saying that is even if just for argument's sake, we say what we were taught in our classes was a good enough lesson. I don't know that, but let's just say we did. There are lots of states that have gutted the teaching of racism, that gutted the teaching of slavery, and so
But like I said, to be fair, I think I made the statement. Victor and I went to Catholic schools. I went to Catholic school till 5th grade.
It's not public school. I want to say they said Texas was one of the worst ones.
Well, I think Victor, you went to Catholic school. What?
No, you went to public school.
No, I did go to public school. No, I went to public school. I went to St. Gregory's for church and CCD.
I thought you went to St. Matthew's school.
No, sir.
Because I went to St. Gregory's till 5th grade.
And I think again, even if we decide that what we were taught was good, I mean, fuck, that was 20-something years ago. Like, to suggest that that's what's being taught now.
Well, I hope they develop, because
what this person was suggesting was quite the opposite. That instead of it getting better, it's gotten worse. That they've chosen to teach less and less with the idea that, look, I don't think we should be taught. Like, I think we should be taught to see everybody the same. Like, I think it doesn't have to be one or the other. I think we can learn from our history so that we're not doomed to repeat it. I think we can teach ourselves that. I mean, I learned all that stuff in class, and I didn't learn that we should be treating people differently. And I think there is a right way to, there's a way that you can thread that line and teach people what they need to know about the society that they're going to be moving forward into, without teaching people you might as well not move forward, which, by the way, is it's funny when we do this, because I got livid about this 7 episodes ago when I saw a show about a girl that was essentially saying that exact thing based on what she's already learned without these courses, which is that as a young Black girl, she might as well not even try, because nothing she does matters at all.
Because the system is stacked against her.
Right. And my argument was that if that's what we're teaching people, we need to be teaching them something else, because there's a difference between going into a system that's stacked against you and being prepared for that, and feeling like you might as well not even do it because you don't have a chance. Because that's not the truth. I mean, the truth is, there is a system stacked against certain people. And the truth is, despite that, you can succeed in that system. It shouldn't be stacked against you. It's not right. We need to try to fix those things. But throwing your hands up in the air and saying, I just might as well not participate is not how we get there.
I think what I can all agree on, there should be equal opportunity. If we're looking for equal outcome, that is something that's not attainable. That's something that can lead to very bad things.
I agree. Depending on how you strive to.
I think equal opportunity is what we strive for, that there is an equal opportunity for anyone to pursue anything they want to do. You cannot attain equal outcome. That is an unattainable thing.
Right. I think And I'm not saying I have the solution to this, but I think the problem is a large group of people in our country saying that if we just make everything even for everybody, while that is a great place to be, it's going to lead to it taking more time than people live to.
Star Trek is a noble goal.
Yes,
Right,
it is.
right.
Look,
Star Trek's a noble goal, but it's science
right.
fiction for a reason.
Yeah, look, I'm not saying I don't think that we should do things to make a time period that we won't be in better. I do, but I also understand people saying if what you're saying you're going to do is something that is going to mean that I am going to be at a disadvantage until the day I die, maybe something more needs to be done, because I don't want to be at a disadvantage for my entire lifetime. And I think if we just say, okay, everybody has the same chances now, the amount of time it'll take to bridge the gap between where certain people in our society start at and where other people start at would take more than a lifetime to bridge. Maybe that is the only way to do it. I don't know. But I certainly recognize people saying at 20 years old, I'm not happy with just accepting the idea that for my entire life, I'm not going to get the same, I'm not going to, life's going to be harder for me. And maybe it will, sometimes that is just the way it is, but I recognize some people not being okay with just accepting that idea.
I think it's a progression. Life's always been harder for the generations prior.
Yes.
And I think we've made strides.
We have.
But I think we regressed in some aspects because we used to be able to laugh.
That's true too.
We used to be able to laugh at our differences. I watched an episode of The Jeffersons because I was playing it for one of my friends the other day. I couldn't believe at what was said on the show. Like I watched the show could not be on TV today.
Yes.
Oh no. Said the N-word.
I think those are I mean, I think those
call it the black and white couple. I was like, oh my God.
I think those are different arguments though, because I 100% agree with you. We're way too sensitive. We are way too much trying to not just judge people, but like punish people based on what they think and say, which has never been the way it has been before. I don't think that's okay. Like, we can't do that. Like, you have a right to be racist in this country. It sucks that there are people that choose to take advantage of that, but it's a free society. You have the right to think and say whatever the fuck you want to. That's not where we should be legislating. That's not where we should be focusing our attention. What we need to be focusing our attention on is hopefully teaching people that while you have that choice, that might not be the best choice to make, and removing rules and laws in this country that has made it easier for certain groups of people to reach higher levels, and certain groups of people much harder to do so. And that's, if we really want change, those are the things that we should be focusing on. And it seems like, and I've been trying to make this argument for a long time, is that you can do the things that make you feel better, right? You can yell and scream and complain and go and, get in somebody's face and yell at them because you hate them so much. And that makes us feel better. It makes me feel better to do that. I'm not, ignorant to the benefits of doing those things. I get it, right? But they don't make change happen at all. Quite the contrary. They typically have the opposite effect on change, which is what we're seeing now, which is a regression back to the way things were at a time period that I think we weren't as great as we have been, right? And so if it is important to recognize the difference between what makes a positive change towards the direction we should be going in, and what just makes us feel better about how shitty things are right now. Change is typically done by people working really hard and accepting it in small doses. Not by people screaming and yelling until they get everything they want at one time. I mean, that's never really been the way any major change has ever happened in any real society. So when you're out there with your nose up because you're so woke and doing so much, like, you should probably stop to question, like, is what you're doing making you feel good, or actually making change? Because if you've been right. I mean, if you've been out there doing what you've been doing for 10 years and you can't show anything different for it, maybe that's not what you should be doing. Maybe you should reconsider. Maybe you should start a show where people get to talk about whatever they want to
No,
And-
like I said, I thought the whole concept of your show, I think it's beautiful in that we have to remember we are all American. We all live in the United States, and we all, at heart, want the basic same things. We want better life for our family, better life for our friends. You know, fundamentally we all want that. We just disagree on how we get there.
I think there's something very beautiful about people being willing to say what they really think and why they think that, regardless of what people feel about it, because that's where change happens, right?
But I think you said it. How did we get there? Why does this person think the way he does? What led him? Because like you can look at Victor and I. We grew up in the same area. We grew up on the same streets, right around the corner from each other. We come from the same family. My mother and his father grew up under the same values, but I would say we're probably a little different in some of our political views.
Sure.
Just because of how he got there. You know, I went to the military. You know, I grew up in a probably a little bit more conservative area, but it's not just that's led me to where I'm at today, right?
Right. I agree with that. I agree with that. And I think the point I'm trying to, I've had talks with people about like what we would talk about on the show or who I would invite to come and talk on the show. And I've said, I'll let anybody who wants to come on the show and have a legitimate debate, meaning that they, say how they honestly feel, why they honestly feel that way, and allow other people who disagree with them to comment on that and debate back and forth. I don't care who comes on. I don't care what it is they want to talk about, right? Because I think we owe a gratitude to anybody who's willing to come on something, on a show where they'll be honest about what they feel and are willing to debate that idea openly, fairly, without being, I mean, I know I probably yell more than anybody when I get excited, but I don't think I'm ever like, I don't try to be disrespectful or rude to anybody. Like, I appreciate anybody who comes on here and says what they honestly feel.
I think it's like what Victor said in his story when he was talking about Isaiah's young friend. I hate Mexicans. Not realizing, hey, you're right with some, right?
Right. Yeah.
Right now you have liberals that are, I hate conservatives. I hate people that vote for Trump.
Obviously, that was a little kid, so Victor's not going to jump up and down on him. But had Victor jumped up and down on him and given him a bunch of shit, that kid wouldn't have come away from that saying, oh, maybe he would have been like, man, Mexicans are assholes. You know what I mean? Like,
they're right. I hate them. No,
right.
83 people can't hate 79 million. 83 million people can't hate 79 million because we're in a binary system. There's only two choices. And for me, we talked about it last week, pro-life, pro-choice is a big thing for me. So there's probably only one way I can vote, right? Because of something that means that much to me, and it shouldn't come down to that, but it does to me, right? So we've moved
away from a society where I think we started to accept the idea, not everybody individually, right, but like as a society, like that there's a lot of gray, right? Like things are complicated, and we were talking about this at the beginning of the show. Nobody thinks they're the bad guy, right? Everybody thinks they're right and thinks what they feel is important, right? Nobody thinks like I'm an asshole and I'm just going to be an asshole.
That's what I was saying about that Darth Vader thing, because I don't remember Clerks or what. I think maybe it's not Clerks. It's one of them. It's one of his movies where they start talking about, the people that were on the Death Star, all those union workers and the workers, they just murdered them. They murdered them.
Right.
Who's the bad guys? The rebels.
The other really good one I saw a show. If y'all haven't seen it, it's called Mr. In Between. God, I love that.
Show. I watched that show. It's a great
Such a great show. I mean, I love that character so much. But anyways, there's one part where he's in the house reading his daughter the Jack and the Beanstalk story. And the daughter's like, so he stole the hen? Like, he broke into his house and stole his hen? And then at the end, when he chops the tree down, he killed the Jack. He broke into his house, stole his shit, and then killed him? Like, that Jack's an asshole, She doesn't say that, but she's like, I don't like this story. And so at the end, he's like, oh, I forgot a page. So then the police came and arrested the giant and put him in jail. And then he goes outside. Arrested Jack, not the Jack. You're right. I'm sorry. Arrested Jack and put him in jail. And then he goes outside. And his brother's sitting outside. And he's like, hey, you remember that Jack and the Beanstalk story? And he's like, and he tells him the whole story, and his brother's like, "Yeah, that guy Jack's a real asshole."
Well, that's the Barney from How I Met Your Mother when they were talking about Karate Kid before.
Right.
The thing said, he's like, "Oh yeah, that
guy shows up, steals his girlfriend.
He shows up, steals his girlfriend.
And he even says like he's trying to stay out of trouble and he just wants to have a peaceful senior year at the beginning of the show or whatever. And then that Danny goes and screws everything, and he instigates everything all the time.
That's what I love about the show. You almost wonder if the guy that wrote the new show did it after watching that, because that's like exactly what the new show is that you're like, this guy's not a bad guy, you know what I mean? Like, he was just trying to do his shit, and
through his senior year.
Right. And plus, like, the assumption during the movie was he was like some rich entitled asshole, and you find out he really wasn't, and that like he came from a broken home with a guy that abused it, you know what I mean? You're like, oh wow, he really wasn't that bad of a guy, you know? He's really kind of think about it. How would any teenage kid react in high school to some guy trying to steal his girlfriend? Like, exactly that way. Like, you would beat him up. Right.
Mr. Miyagi comes on the scene as like a 50-year-old man beats the shit out of some kids.
Right. I mean, that's exactly what I would have done in high school. I would have kicked his ass and I would have made his life hell. That's what I would have tried to do. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. It's all depends on what side of the story you're getting. That's my point. Anyways, the point is we used to be more accepting to the idea that like our perceptions are different based on the life that we live. And now we've like kind of retreated into our corners of like, no, I'm right, you're wrong. And to the point where it's even like when somebody tries to give you some other information, it's like, oh, I better not hear that. That might change my opinion. Like, really? Like we're really getting to the point where you don't want to hear.
Viewers watch Fox. The Fox viewers watch Fox, and the what is it, CNN?
CNN, watch CNN.
I've never in my life felt like more information is a bad. I mean, sure, it doesn't feel good when you have to say, yep, I was wrong. I hate having to do it. Everybody does. But at the same time, I prefer that over continuing to be an idiot. You know what I mean? Like, if I'm being an idiot and you can give me some information that shows me I'm being an idiot, I want that information. Like, tell me so I don't have to be an idiot anymore. You know what I mean? Like, when did we become so happy with purposely being stupid?
That's how we grow.
You know what's hilarious?
Grow as a society.
Yeah, absolutely.
I went to the emergency room. Had to go to the emergency room about 2 weeks ago, and they had this. You're in the waiting room. They had this partition wall there, and they had TVs on either side. And one side was playing Fox, and one side was playing CNN. I thought it was awesome. It was like amazing. It was like
was it 50-50 or was like more people on one side than the other?
No, it was real late at night, so it was only like 5 people over here.
I'm sure it just depends on what hospital you got. My kids used to have their Girl Scout meetings at this room they had in a retirement home. And so I would go there. I hate retire. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, when you're in that situation, I think for most people it's the best, but it smells funny. And it's like it's just like it's like, God, I don't ever want to be here. But every time I went, like, every channel in that motherfucker was on Fox, because it was like, I mean, obviously this is where old rich people go to fucking die, because who the fuck can afford? It's a really nice retirement home. The only people who can live there, I shouldn't say white, but I mean, it's like rich old people live there. You know what I mean?
Well, I think we talked about that's a cultural thing, right?
It is. It's a cultural thing. Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
But even our grandmother went to one, but that was after, because she was living with my grandparents.
Right.
My mom just said, I physically can't take.
Well, and there's different ones. Let's be clear. There's like ones that like, struggling people send their parents to because that's all that they can afford. And then there's like the real fucking fancy ones where people who have a fucking ton of money set aside go to. This was one of those places. You know what I mean?
There's ones like my daughters tell me as soon as I'm of age, they're putting
right. Well, I tell you what, anybody who
I'm
doesn't
okay with it. I'm down. I want to go. Not necessarily to the
you want to go to the one I was at. You want to go to the one I was at. Yeah.
There are women that live longer than men. Those men are cleaning up right now.
Yeah. No, it's true. Lots of sex. Although I gotta say, like, maybe obviously I'll change my mind when I'm old, but like,
you're damn right you will.
I don't know that that's true though. Like, like as I'm starting to get older, I still feel like I don't know that I'm down with like like what like I don't know. I was
You don't
like
know. There has to be, and you
I
see
mean I'm
them
just
throughout the
saying
world.
porn is really
You
good
see
now,
them.
you know what I mean? Like
Yeah, but there are women. There are women that age well and still
yeah,
have
that's
things in
true.
the right places. You
I
know.
guess that's true. I guess that's true. Although you know, I
And I'm
imagine
and
that
I'm
they're
I'm a
the
dir- I'm a dirty 40-year-old. I'm going to be a dirty old man.
I don't know that the idea of at any age having to have sex with a 70-year-old woman does not excite me in any way, shape, or form. Is all I'm saying. You know, I'm really hoping that virtual reality will have come a long way by then. Is all I'm saying.
That does not bode well for my sister. Thank you very much.
I got a sneaky suspicion she ain't gonna be all that excited about it either. She gonna have her own VR headset. I'm quite certain. Shit. But anyways, yeah. I don't know. It's just ridiculous. People are more happier than ever to be like, don't you dare tell me something that'll change my opinion. And nobody knows anything. Like not I don't know. Certainly when you get into like a certain age group, like I've worked tons of places where I can within minutes change anybody's opinion, even if I don't believe the argument that I make. Like I used to do it just simply to prove to myself that I could make to believe anything I wanted to, because they know so little about it. It's like they know
Yeah,
this little
yeah,
2-second bite that they saw on Facebook or YouTube, and it's like, oh, well, did you know about that? And I'm not even lying to them, right? Like giving them factual information, but only the factual information that I want to get them, and I can bring it back and forth, you know. Oh, you're right. Yeah. Oh, but I didn't tell you. Blah blah blah. Oh, well, then I guess I do think the thing I thought before. Yeah, but did I tell? I mean, I could do that shit all day with them, and they have
Yeah,
no
but
like.
I think what you're doing is noble because like I actually listened to Willie Robertson who Duck Dynasty. You know who that
yes,
is?
yes.
I know Duck Dynasty. Which one is he?
He's the main one. So
The son?
yeah, well he's the son of the old man.
Like okay,
Willie
Uh,
Robertson's like the main one. Willie's the main one you see. He's like
like
president of.
he's the one that was like running the company at that
Yes,
point.
yes.
Yeah.
So him
Okay.
and
Yeah.
his wife started a thing, and while I still don't like people that kneel, I listened to him and Arian Foster and two other gentlemen. I can't remember who they were. They had a big discussion about it. I understand their sentiment, and I agree in protest, and I agree in free speech,
Right.
which is why I serve my country.
Yeah,
And
man. That's
I don't. I agree with it's their right to do it. It's also my right to not like it. But I
yeah,
understand. But I understand more after watching that conversation.
right. I feel the same way
Why they're doing it.
when it first started happening, it really fucking bothered me. We've had this conversation. I
Yeah, it bothered me.
remember
That bothered me a lot.
I remember like when I was a teenager, me and my dad were at a place and we were working this event, and so we were in a big hurry and we were trying to get from one side to the other, and they started playing the national anthem, and we weren't even really paying attention, but we had to get somewhere in a certain amount of time, so everybody would stop listening to the national anthem, and we were walking, and this dude like stopped my dad and was like, if you don't stop during the national anthem, I'm gonna fuck you up. And I'm don't really like that shit now, and I'm 40 something years old. At teenage, yeah, like threatening my dad would have been worse than telling me that, and I wouldn't have taken well, like regardless of the point he was trying to make, like you don't stop me and say you're gonna fuck me up. You certainly don't say that shit to my father, right? And so I was about ready to knock this dude the fuck out, or at least, I mean, maybe he would have beat me up, but we were gonna find out, right? And my dad was like, you know what, you're absolutely right, and stopped and turned and took his hat off, and I was like, oh, all right, maybe we are fucking up, you know? So we stopped. And ever since then, I always think about that. Like, he's not wrong. Like, I think his approach, was not the best way because he almost got his ass whooped, but he wasn't wrong. It's important. It's
It's how you
important
deliver them. It's important to certain people, and I get that. But I
yeah,
understand. I also understand from listening to them talk why that they feel that the way they
Yeah.
feel.
And I think
Why
they tried to
they're
do
doing
it. They tried to do it as respectively as they could, right? Because he could have sat down on the bench. He could have like turned around. My
Well, he
understanding is
did
that
sit down at the beginning.
He
well,
did.
In
he
the beginning, he did sit
The
down, and he stopped because
the veteran told the guy next to him, said, "Look, if you're gonna do it, you should kneel. It's more respectful to kneel."
Yeah,
right. He talked, and
exactly.
I think he talked to a number of veterans about what he wanted to do and the right way to do it without being disrespectful. And that was what they suggested that he did. And so he did it the most
Exactly.
respectful way that he could do it. But he's not wrong in the idea that if it wasn't something that people were gonna like freak out about, it wouldn't have worked, right? I mean, he had to do something that was gonna get people talking about it in order
Yeah.
for it to make any kind of impression, which is why he did it. And I get
What's
that.
sad is
And
he still never could find a job.
right. Which is fucked
Afterwards,
up.
everything was like, oh,
Well,
like
I mean, if you look
okay.
at his numbers,
Even-
he was okay. I think he should have a job as a backup. He definitely wasn't a starter.
yeah, absolutely.
He was definitely not
And
starting.
well, that depends. There's some shitty starters that are
Yeah,
starting
that's
right
true.
now. He's definitely better than some
Well,
of
at
the
that
starters
time,
that are starting.
I think now, I don't know if he is physically because I don't know, maybe
No.
Tom Brady.
Yeah, obviously now it's diminished, but at the time he was definitely better than some starters that were starting.
Granted,
I understand the
when
argument.
when he had the opportunity to showcase, he shouldn't have canceled. Right?
Yeah.
Like if you're trying to get a job and you got a job interview, you don't tell them, you know what? No, I'm not going at that time. I'm going at 9. Right?
Yeah.
You're probably not getting that job.
Yeah. No, I agree with that.
Yeah, but I understand. I mean, yeah, it was a point worth making, and he had to do something in order to get people talking about it, and it worked. I mean, people
It
do.
worked.
You know what I mean? Like
Well,
that's
what I
the
find that's funny
undeniable
and
truth to
terrible.
it.
That's what I find that's funny and terrible is that it did work, and the NFL like admits that they were wrong. Everyone is like on board now and everything, and he still can't get a job, and he doesn't even get credit for starting it most of the time. When they give all these like, look at all our wonderful players that are taking advantage of their time in front of the camera and kneeling for something they believe in, they never show him.
Right.
But to be fair, they did do the same thing to Tim Tebow. They did do the same thing to who's the ex-Baylor quarterback, the one he went and played for Washington, the Heisman.
Yeah, I forgot his name, but I know who you're talking about.
They were trying, right? They made him flip his shirt inside because he had God something on his shirt, and they did the same thing to Tim because he was kneeling and praying, right?
Yeah.
So people act like that. You know, it wasn't. They didn't want any kind of protest at all, and they definitely didn't want any Christian protest at all or Christian things.
Yeah. No, look. Everybody has the right to protest. I mean, you have the right to burn the fucking flag. I don't think it's a good idea, but that's
protesting is one of the fundamental rights.
Absolutely, and it should be like we need to have the right to stand up when we think something is wrong. I going back to my earlier argument, I really hate when protests dissolve into one side screaming at the other because all that does is make each side hate each other more. Like we used to protest in ways that I just seem to make a bigger deal. You know, sit-ins. You know, I understand like the sentiment that like peaceful protest. You know, like we're like now. Like it seems to be that the sentiment is like things aren't where they should be, so that didn't work. And it's like, well, things are better now than they would have been because of that shit, which means it did work, right? Like something doesn't have to solve a problem to make a situation better, and then you build on that. And I think you can point like direct lines from people that did like nonviolent, non-confrontational, confrontational protests to changes that have been made, whereas
he's a transformer. He transformed a generation,
right? Whereas you tend to see that people that take a more aggressive or violent approach tend to not have as much success is what I've seen.
I do too.
All right, well, we are going to learn about teaching racism, and we will see you guys next week.
as much as we can in 1 week's time, according to the internet.
I think understanding what it is that they want the lesson plan to be, so to speak. I mean, at least gives us like it's fair to take a stance on that. You know what I mean? know what you're talking about before let's know what we're talking about before we're happy with or upset about something. You know what I mean? We do that a lot too, and it doesn't work out well. We should have the facts before we take hard opinions on things. I think we can get the facts by next week.
Okay, sounds good to me.
All right, guys.
All right.
Jack, you in next week?
It was fun. Thanks, Jack.
Yeah, hit me up.
All right.
Sounds good.
Bye.
Sir.
Bye, guys.
Bye.